Chapter 1462. Senior. Ao Jiao's voice was dry and she couldn't believe it. That was the god-destroying light cannon. It could easily kill a nascent soul heavenly lord and severely injure a soul formation grand cultivator. It could even penetrate dimensions and destroy dimensional laws. And yet, Jiang Tian had survived. At this moment, Qi Jiui and Qi Liqui widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Even Long Shengnan cried out in surprise. He's only a nascent soul cultivator. Even though he doesn't have a nascent soul golden core, defeating a half-soul formation cultivator is already his limit. How could he withstand the attack of the god-destroying light cannon? He's not human. Has the information been wrong? He's not a guest from Earth at all. He's a divine fetus from the central galaxy in the outer space. Seeing this, Wu Shujian, who had retreated to the back to watch, was so frightened that he almost fell from the high school. Fairy Yaoyu's face turned pale as well. Her impression of Ling Yun was refreshed once again. What was the god-destroying light cannon? For example, it was like a nuclear weapon in this world. It was the ultimate weapon that could kill a soul formation overlord. Even the sword god of the Emperor Palace would have to avoid it. What was Jiang Tian? He was a nascent soul cultivator, and a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator. He could suppress a half-soul formation cultivator, which was equivalent to a transcendent grandmaster on Earth. A transcendent grandmaster could only die in front of a nuclear weapon. Everyone's mind was in a mess. They did not expect that Jiang Tian could survive. Not even the god-destroying light cannon can kill him. Wu Huan stopped his Dharma form and was shocked. It was already inconceivable that Jiang Tian could withstand the god-destroying light cannon, but with such a horrifying indiscriminate attack, he would definitely be severely injured, and his battle prowess would drop drastically. How could he resist his Dharma form under such circumstances? Even though he hadn't used all his strength, it was enough to destroy a mountain and kill all life within a few hundred miles. Evil, it's too evil. Even Shen Chang couldn't stay calm. Ghost Wolf was even more cautious. He sent a message to the Dark Crow Guards with his immortal will. That was a tough nut to crack. Today, all of you will die here. Jiang Tian's gaze swept across the broken walls, scorched earth, and flames below. A cold light burst out from his eyes as a raging fury slowly filled his heart. Using battle to nurture battle and excavating all resources naturally had its benefits. Attacking and defending in an orderly manner, fighting steadily and surely. However, there was one unavoidable drawback, and that was that the battlefield would always be within one's own territory, and it was easy for the cultivators and commoners there to be affected. But Jiang Tian was not an invader. Instead, he was a liberator. For example, Qi Jiui, Aofeng, Takong Mingyi, and the other cultivators that followed him were loyal, brave, and skilled in battle. They were willing to go through fire and water for Jiang Tian. To a certain extent, Jiang Tian already regarded the cultivators and mortals here as his own people. They supported him, and he had to protect them. But now the Yingzhou world was devastated. Countless cultivators and mortals had died. This was a disaster, and it was too tragic. Kong Teichu, you'd better give up and surrender. There are 100,000 cultivators, as many as the Golden Core cultivators, and 300 nascent soul cultivators. Do you think you can escape? A heavenly sect elder from the aquamarine world came out to persuade him to surrender. He was a nascent soul cultivator and thought highly of himself. His eyes were full of disdain as if he was looking at an ant. Noisy. Jiang Tian flicked his finger. No one saw clearly what kind of Abijna Jiang Tian had unleashed. The elder didn't even have time to scream before his body exploded and turned into a rain of flesh. Blood filled the sky and even his nascent soul was shattered into countless pieces. Everyone was shocked, and their hair stood on end. They all kept silent. Killing a nascent soul cultivator with a finger. This brat's strength was too strong. You're just a nascent soul cultivator. I, Kong Teichu, have killed countless of you. It's not your turn to be presumptuous here. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and he said coldly, Everyone, you're all going to die here today. You think you can kill all of us here with just you alone? Have you eaten too many elixirs? Do you know that I can kill you with one hand? Wu Huan was still calm. He glanced at Jiang Tian and sneered. No matter how powerful he is, he's just a golden core cultivator after all. He can only kill normal nascent soul cultivators, but he's still incomparable to a real half-soul formation cultivator. A divine general from the White Python Guard said coldly. He rubbed his fists and was eager to fight. In fact, even though Jiang Tian had just been hit by the god-destroying light cannons, he was still alive and could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord with one finger. He had displayed shocking strength. However, in the eyes of many people, Jiang Tian was still a soft persimmon that was easy to bully. After all, he must have been severely injured after being hit by such a terrifying light cannon. He wouldn't be able to hold on for long, so they should kill him while he was weak. By then, Prince Qiuming would definitely reward them handsomely. There were quite a few cultivators who had the same idea. Kong Teichu, you're a talent. If you're loyal, I can help you to ask the Emperor's palace not to punish you. I can even let you join the Dark Crow Guards and make you a commander or deputy guard captain. Prince Qiuming is gathering his forces. He's always cherished talents. Ghost Wolf persuaded. Ao Jiao, leave first. Let me fight. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and his face was full of killing intent. Shifting stars. Go. In the next moment, a 10-foot divine disc appeared behind Jiang Tian before Ao Jiao and the others could react. It spun in a dazzling light and shook 100 miles. He directly sent Ao Jiao, Qi Liqui, and the others thousands of miles away. It was a powerful divine power that could only be used when one reached the soul formation stage. It used the power of the constellations to move the space and achieve long-distance teleportation. At the moment, Jiang Tian was only controlling the entire divine disc, and it consumed a lot of his power. His energy seemed to have dropped a little. Hee, everyone, those who have nothing to do with this, please leave. Jiang Tian's divine disc spun and the light became brighter, enveloping him. His dantian let out a thunderous roar and his body shone like the sun. I can finally use my full strength and twist your heads off. Around his body, layers of flames overlaid and gushed out, turning into raging flames. His aura rose crazily, surging like a bull, as if a supreme divine general had returned to the 9 heavens. Master, Senior, Ta Kong, Mingyi, Baizhe, Blackie and Qi Liqui, as well as Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui, were already outside the army, but they were extremely worried about Jiang Tian at the moment. They yelled and rushed forward, wanting to help Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian had already made his move. Before he finished speaking, his body swayed and he used the Kuan-Prung extreme speed. His speed reached the peak, and he rushed towards Wu Huan at the speed of light. Bastard, you're the first. In the sky, a dazzling golden light pierced through the sky, leaving a dazzling golden line that was 1,000 miles long. It was so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch it. After the light shot out, the space where Jiang Tian was just now shattered into pieces. There was a terrifying sound of space collapsing that sounded like the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. Chapter 1463. It's useless. We are the immortals, heavenly officials, and heavenly generals of the Ruins Emperor's palace. We have either reached the soul formation realm, or have the combat power of a soul formation realm cultivator. The power of the immortals from the upper world is something you can never imagine. Wu Huan's mocking voice was like a giant python's roar or a thunderous roar that came from the 9 heavens. There's no need for you to do it. I'll kill him. The third heavenly general of the White Python Guards, a cultivator half a step into the soul formation realm, Mangya, wearing python scale armor, charged into the 9 heavens. He flew above Jiang Tian, and stomped down like he was stepping on an ant. He wanted to stomp Jiang Tian to death. His eyes were full of mockery and mockery. He wanted to stomp Jiang Tian to death. The meaning of humiliation in this was extremely deep and strong. At this moment, countless cultivators from the Ying continent and Northern Sea clenched their fists tightly, their eyes wide open. Even the violent demon beasts in the ancient demon abyss were beating their chests angrily, roaring at the sky with anger. They had fought with the human cultivators of this world for a place to live. At this moment, everyone had a common enemy and could not wait for Mangya to die. Haha, Mangya is going to kill him. General Mangya is picking on soft persimmons to bully. At this moment, The army of 100,000 cultivators from the ruins of immortality was mocking him. Manya was once a heavenly sexongzi. He was extremely talented, and in his era, he was ranked 11th on the God of War list. He suppressed many of his peers and awed an entire era. Now he was ranked 23rd among the 99 heavenly generals of the ruins Emperor's Palace. Manya's stomp seemed reckless and humiliating, but he did not hold back at all. With this stomp, nomological laws roared and essence chi boiled, forming a giant foot that was 1,000 feet long. It smashed down like a mountain, piercing through the clouds and tearing the sky apart, as though it could sink the continent and crush everything. Rumble. Just as Wu Huan and Ghost Wolf were smiling mockingly, Ao Jiao, Qi Jiui, and the rest were pale with fright, and Manya was about to be rewarded. Boom! A power akin to the eruption of a volcano suddenly exploded at the foot of the vast cliff. This power contained the supreme laws of the vermilion bird, and it surged into the heavens like red flames. It was so vast, surging, and scorching that it was as if thousands of nuclear weapons had exploded at the same time. Ah! Vast Cliff howled miserably as he retreated in midair. However, it was already over. Divine blood scattered across the sky, and one of his legs was blasted apart. His entire body was scorched black and cracked open. What? At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects of the Billow world all turned pale. Even Wu Huan, Guileng, and Shen Chong, the 3 supreme giants, were shocked. They all knew that Kong Teichu was very strong. However, he had already been shot several times by the god-vanquishing light cannons, and was clearly severely wounded. Even so, he was still able to push back a half-step soul formation stage cultivator. You want to step on me? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Jiang Tian's battle intent surged like a tide. The 30-foot bright divine disc spun rapidly, and the Kurenpeng used its extreme speed to close in. He waved his fingers and slashed horizontally. The gung metal divine blade. It was completely formed by Dharma laws. Every tiny grain of gung metal was a rune that formed a chapter of Dharma laws. It was as sharp as a blade. Even though Vast Cliff activated the Dharma form of the sky-swallowing giant python, burned his golden core, and the essence chi around him was boiling like an ocean, forming many python scales to block the attack, and even exploding a few protection true artifacts, he still couldn't stop Jiang Tian's slash. Whoosh! His protective light shields cracked, his scales turned into dust, and his armor crumbled. The surging saber light cut into his body, creating deep cuts that exposed his bones. In the blink of an eye, he was about to be cut in half, and his body and soul would be destroyed. Brother Vastcliff, let me help you. A tall immortal general, who was also wearing a white python scale armor and emitting a bloodthirsty and cold aura, let out a thunderous roar. He held 2 wheel-like axes in his hands, and turned into a silver beam of light, blocking in front of Jiang Tian's blade light. He was Long Xian, one of the 9 divine generals of the White Python Guards and ranked 40 among them. And yet, Jiang Tian didn't hold back his power at all. He used the supreme Dharma laws of gung metal, which was comparable to normal Grand Daos. How powerful was that? It was equivalent to an attack from a soul formation cultivator. How could 2 divine generals who were only half a step away from the divine transformation stage stop them? Not only did Jiang Tian use the most powerful power of the gung metal immortal body, he also used divine Dharma laws that could be used anywhere in the universe. It wasn't a limited Dharma law that could only be used in a galaxy like theirs. Poof! Long Xian spurted out blood. He couldn't withstand it at all, and kept falling back. His body was also cut by the blade aura formed by the Dharma laws of gung metal. He's too powerful. Many people frowned. 2 divine generals at the half-soul formation level couldn't even resist Kong Teichu's slash. More importantly, Jiang Tian's blade aura didn't stop at all. They would be killed in the next second. Count me in. Me too. Kill. Before he finished speaking, streaks of golden light, white light, and silver light that pierced through the heavens and earth soared into the sky one after another. 1, 2, 3. In the end, there were 8 divine generals in total, including Mengya who attacked at the beginning. Other than Wu Huan, the divine generals of the White Python Guards all attacked. Boom. 8 divine generals at the half-soul formation level attacked at the same time. How powerful were they? They were surrounded by different laws. Wind, lightning, earth, fire, metal, darkness. They were vast and surged boundlessly, seething like burning mountains and boiling seas. And they crushed expanse after expanse of space. Even an area of 500 kilometers was unable to endure the enormous pressure, causing the ground to collapse while cities were transformed into powder. In the end, 8 dazzling lights converged into a gray pillar of chaotic light, and it actually possessed the aura of the beginning of the primordial era. They often fought together. When they joined forces, they were even more powerful than ordinary half-soul formation level cultivators. They were comparable to an attack from a real soul formation level cultivator. The gray light pillar was 1,000 feet long. It crossed the sky and blocked Jiang Tian's blade aura with the golden law, preventing Jiang Tian from slashing it. Crack, crack. The sky cracked and thunder exploded. What was shocking was that the chaotic light pillar pushed Jiang Tian's golden gung divine blade back 1,000 feet. Interesting. Jiang Tian was surprised. Although he looked like an ordinary person, it was the result of returning to his original state. In fact, he was using the golden gung immortal body. Jiang Tian didn't expect the 8 half-soul formation level cultivators to be able to simulate the aura of chaos and block his slash. Of course, they still couldn't stop Jiang Tian if he used all his divine body and dharma laws. But that was already very rare. It showed that the Ruins Emperor's palace and the 9 guards were indeed powerful. Ha! Kong Teichu, that's all you've got. A divine general yelled. Right, Kong Teichu, you can't even defeat the 8 of us. You want to be an enemy of the ruins of deity. Besides, our chief guard Wu Huan hasn't done anything yet. If he does, you'll be swallowed immediately and turned into blood. Divine General Long Xian also sneered. Kong Teichu, surrender and beg for mercy. You're a lowly abandoned person. Surrendering is your only way out. Otherwise you'll die. Mengya became smug again after getting out of danger. Threats and mockery. At this moment, Qi Jiui, Zhang Qingyang, Sword Honorable Ao Tian, and the others were all shocked when they saw this scene. They were worried about Jiang Tian and their future. Those divine generals of the White Python Guards were already on par with Jiang Tian. The most powerful chief guard, Wu Huan, hadn't done anything, and the more powerful Golden Crow Guards hadn't done anything either. He's an inferior being from the remote and desolate solar system after all. How dare he say he's going to break through the soaring cloud realm and kill the Ruins Emperor? The sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world snickered, as if Jiang Tian was just a madman who was fishing for fame and making irresponsible remarks. Chapter 1464. If someone with a sharp mind heard what they said, they would have mocked the cultivators of Hylon. They mocked Kong Teichu, but did they think they could win? Even if Jiang Tian was going to lose, they didn't have the right to mock Jiang Tian. After all, he'd already challenged a few formidable half-step divine transformation realm cultivators without being defeated. Such an accomplishment was rare even in the ruins of immortality, and it was sufficient to show disdain for all. But that was how the world was. Sometimes, the prejudice and arrogance in people's hearts were like a mountain that was difficult to remove. Just like in the mortal world, some people would brag about how powerful their parents and friends were, and look down on others even if they were terrible themselves. Let's not talk about a person. Even if it was a country or a civilization that went from weak to strong, a spectacular rise that attracted the attention of many, there would still be people who looked down on it. It was just like how there were still rumors that we mainlanders couldn't afford to eat tea eggs. Even though he's talented, he's from a declining planet after all. He doesn't have enough power. Besides, Prince Qiuming was decisive. He sent the 3 elite guards down to the mortal world. That's like killing him in the cradle while he's still weak. If he's given 100 years, no, even 10, the 3 guards might not be able to catch him. Yao Yu Fairy's eyes were filled with regret as she sighed. On the other hand, Wu Shujian rubbed his hands excitedly. I'm afraid he's going to die this time. But how can we get his peerless sword? There are too many people here. Should we just take it? Or ask the 3 guards for it afterward? That sword looks normal when it's not used. They might not be able to tell. Right at this moment, Jiang Tian suddenly sneered and said, "That's right. A few ants and cockroaches dare to speculate my power? Fine, I'll let everyone here witness my true power today. I'll show you what it means to be invincible." Then, Jiang Tian shouted in a low voice, "Red Sparrow!" Boom, 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 boom. The sound of a thunderous explosion, the sound of a river collapsing rang out. As the 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun slowly, an incomparably hot aura shot out from Jiang Tian's body. It was as if a sun had appeared in the sky and could burn mountains and boil seas. The star river that represented the vermilion bird true seal suddenly emerged from the dazzling disc behind his back. It was extremely dazzling and magnificent, like countless stars flashing and extinguishing. It was like a supernova explosion, dazzling and blazing. Boom. When the red sparrow seal was activated, the sky was filled with raging flames. The clouds and mist within a radius of 5,000 kilometers were burned away in an instant, and the sky shattered. Everyone saw a giant red sparrow appear on Jiang Tian's body. Each of its particles was formed by true fire runes and contained the essence of fire. It could kill a golden core perfected cultivator, and each feather represented a true fire law. In the end, it formed a red sparrow that was 1,000 feet tall. How terrifying would it be? Boom. Once the red sparrow seal appeared, the red sparrow seal, the red sparrow's divine plate. They only felt as if they were close to a burning star. Heat waves rolled, and the temperature was frighteningly high. Even though they were half-soul formation cultivators and their bodies were tough enough to withstand 100 nuclear explosions, they felt as if they were made of wax. They were about to melt and crack. Then, the red sparrow carried the power of Dharma laws. It opened its mouth and let out a shriek, turning into thousands of fire dragons that flashed across the sky towards the divine generals. "No, run. Let's do it." At this moment, screams and roars resounded on the battlefield. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The earth trembled, and under the suppression of the gunmetal blade, and the burning of the vermilion bird true flame, the gray pillar of chaos that supported the heavens and earth was shattered and shattered. Even the injured vast cliff couldn't withstand it, and was burned to the point of exploding. Even his body and armor were destroyed, turning into a dazzling rain of light that was burned to death by the vermilion bird true flame. A crimson fire was burning on divine General Longxian's body. He was burning his power and life to resist the cruel heat, but it didn't work. His body, which was comparable to the toughest precious metal in the world, actually began to crack under the high temperature. Then it collapsed miserably. Then, the third, the fourth, the fifth, within 3 seconds, the bodies of the 8 divine generals and their dantians exploded like blossoming fireworks. At this moment, all the cultivators were shocked to the point their souls almost left their bodies, and they were stunned on the spot like clay statues, unable to move at all. This scene was simply too shocking. Everyone was in disbelief. Those were the 8 divine generals of the White Python Guards. Even Mangya, the weakest one among them, was strong enough to defeat the 10 nascent soul cultivators, and the sect masters of the heavenly sects in the level 2 worlds were no match for him. As for the realm lord of a level 3 world like Emperor Qin, he didn't even deserve to carry Mangya's shoes. As for Longxian, the most powerful one, it was said that he had cultivated 2 Dharma laws and could defeat all the nascent soul cultivators. When they joined forces, their strength was even more powerful. They could easily defeat a level 2 world in a day, but such a luxurious lineup was destroyed by Jiang Tian. Besides, Jiang Tian was completely suppressing them. He only used 2 divine abilities, and in just 10 seconds he killed them. It was an instant kill. What kind of terrifying power was this? At that moment, countless cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. At this time, Ghost Wolf's face turned pale, and he suddenly realized something. It turns out that Kong Teichu really showed mercy to me before. If he used such Dharma laws and divine powers, I wouldn't have been alive just now. Kong Teichu, today, I will kill you and avenge my brother. Wu Huan was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Tears flowed down his face, and his eyes were filled with hatred. Those 8 divine generals were his right-hand men. Now that they were all dead, he had become a commander without an army. The status of the White Python guards would fall rapidly in the future. Besides, he and Mangya were not just superiors and subordinates. They trained together every day, fought side by side, and fought together. They had already formed a deep friendship that even surpassed the blood connection. Oh my god, this guy is too powerful. Wu Shujian refreshed Jiang Tian's impression of him again. He had carefully observed Jiang Tian's cultivation level. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was indeed at the golden core level, or the nascent soul level. But he seemed to be able to control more than one Dharma law. The attributes of the golden core level were also different. This was very strange and rare, like a fantasy story. Even in the ruins of immortality and among the heavenly talents on the God of War list, it was rarely seen. But in any case, he was only at the nascent soul level, or the golden core level. But now he killed 8 half-step soul formation cultivators with one slash. This was too terrifying. What did a half-step soul formation cultivator mean? That was the most powerful overlord among the nascent soul cultivators. Nascent souls were extremely powerful, and had begun to evolve into gods. Their strength was 10 times or even dozens of times more than ordinary nascent soul cultivators. Even if a golden core perfected cultivator had reached the nascent soul level, there was still a huge gap between them and the real nascent soul level and the half-step soul formation level. But Jiang Tian killed them with one slash. Chapter 1465. Could it be that this kid is going to turn the tables? Jing Shimen, the sect master of the Tao-seeking sect, and Shi Zhenxiang, the sect master of the heavenly incense sect, had reached the pinnacle of the Halon world, and could shake an entire region with a stomp of their feet. Yet, at that moment, they were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Tap, tap, tap. Some of the elders were so frightened that their teeth and legs were trembling. They could not wait to run away. They were all very strong. They were veteran nascent soul cultivators or peak stage nascent soul cultivators. They were elders and sect masters, but they knew very well that they were still a long way from reaching the half-step soul formation realm. At that moment, they were certain that if they were to stand in front of Jiang Tian, they would not even be able to withstand a snap of his fingers. They would be pulverized into dust. It could be said that in front of Jiang Tian, cultivators like them who were once high and mighty, looking down on the common people and believing themselves to be gods of the upper world, were nothing. They were ants and cockroaches that could be crushed with a finger. How is this possible? Long Shengnan exclaimed in disbelief. In her impression, her ancestors had told her that the 9 guards of the ruins Emperor's palace were a divine army that was invincible in every battle. They were invincible and undefeatable in every battle. But today, the 8 divine generals had perished in the hands of Jiang Tian. It made her feel as though her world had been overturned and her worldview had been destroyed. Oh, this kid is evil. He's only at the golden core realm, but since the start of the battle he has been using laws that only nascent soul experts can use. Furthermore, he has already used the laws of space, metal, and fire. His golden core is also a mutated golden core in the shape of a divine disc. The Golden Crow Guard captain, Shen Chang, had a solemn expression. His eyes shot out beams of divine light as he carefully scanned Jiang Tian. He was shocked. Could he have a transcendent grade golden core? But even the legendary divine grade golden core can only control 2 types of Dharma laws. But he has already displayed 3 types of Dharma laws or even more. This is unbelievable. Even Shen Chang, who had lived for thousands of years and was knowledgeable, had never seen such a bizarre thing. At that moment, he could not see through Jiang Tian at all. My lord, victory! The absolute beginning is invincible, invincible, invincible. Only Jiang Tian's camp on the periphery burst into deafening cheers. Senior Taichu, well done. Invincible. Ao Jiao waved her pink fists. She was so excited that her beautiful face flushed red. Her curvy and exquisite body trembled nonstop. Her full chest heaved up and down violently. Kill. Kill. Kill them until they are in despair. Kill them until not even a chicken or a dog is left. Let them taste the bitter taste of failure, endless despair and fear. However, Qi Liqui's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she gnashed her teeth and shouted. But at this moment, whoosh, whoosh, Several beams of colorful light shot out from the turbulent energy. They were the nascent souls of the 8 divine generals. Their nascent souls were no longer ordinary cultivators. Normal nascent souls were usually only about an inch in size, and some were even as small as walnuts or dates. However, their nascent souls were already the size of children, and they already carried a trace of divine aura, as if they were indestructible. You think you can escape? Jiang Tian grunted. The divine generals of the White Python Guards were the Ruins Emperor's loyal accomplices. Most of them even came from the Ruins Emperor's ancestral land. They had once suppressed the wandering cultivators in the ancient deity land. Jiang Tian wanted to destroy the Ruins Emperor's palace, restore the ancient deity land and wipe out an entire sect. He would have to fight with them sooner or later, so there was no way he would show them mercy right then. Boom. The 10-meter-long divine disc behind Jiang Tian spun again. The Taotias returned to origin, which had already become a law-true imprint, rumbled and trembled. An enormous vortex that was like a black hole appeared. It was incomparably deep, and contained an extremely terrifying devouring force. Whoosh. At that moment, everything was turned upside down and chaotic, as if time were flowing backward and the air was flowing in reverse. The nascent souls of the 8 divine generals realized in fear that they couldn't break free from the terrifying restraint, even if they burned themselves. Save me, my friend. Mangya's nascent soul let out a cry and was sucked into the Taotai vortex. It was torn apart and crushed by a terrifying power. Bang, 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 bang. Like watermelons being smashed, the nascent souls of the other divine generals turned into blood and spirit qi and were swallowed. Only Long Xian's nascent soul was left. It was enveloped in a ball of golden light, and was barely holding on with the 9 dragon plates protection Dharma artifact, but it wouldn't last for long. Stop it, villain. Let him go and we can still negotiate. Kong Teichu, how dare you? The divine generals of the 3 armies shouted at the same time, trying to stop Jiang Tian. Why do you have to do this, my friend? If you kill him, you'll escalate the conflict to the point where it can't be resolved. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects also tried to persuade Jiang Tian with their immortal will, hoping to soften Jiang Tian and save Long Xian's nascent soul. Swish, 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 swish. Beams of light shot through the sky towards Jiang Tian. Dozens of elders and sect masters had already attacked, hoping to break Jiang Tian's Taotia's true seal. But the most frightening thing was that many of those nascent soul heavenly lords were experienced and peak stage nascent soul grand heavenly lords, but once they touched the edge of the Taotai vortex, they would sink into it and be unable to free themselves. Even their bodies and nascent souls would be crushed and torn apart, turning into a rain of flesh and blood, or even into the purest essence qi. In a blink, more than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords were killed. This was a terrifying scene, one that was tragic to the extreme. The Taotai swirl was dark and extremely powerful. Even the sun and the moon seemed to be sinking in it. More than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords were crushed into the tiniest particles and swallowed completely. Not even their bodies were left behind, not even a drop of ashes. Kong Teichu, how dare you hurt my brother? You're courting death. In the end, even the leader of the White Python Guards, Wu Huan, couldn't help but attack. With a sway of his body, he turned into a 1,000-feet-long python. His entire body was snow white, and his entire body was filled with an aura that made people tremble. It was as if he could devour the heavens and earth as he charged towards Jiang Tian. This was the fusion of the Dharma, the physical body, the nascent soul, and the laws of nature. It was almost the same as the real heaven-swallowing white python. Its power was extremely strong and terrifying. SDTH. Roar. Let him go and I'll spare your life. The giant white python flew across the sky and opened its mouth. A black hole appeared and the devouring laws rumbled. It was going to fight with the Taotia's true seal for Long Xian's nascent soul. Captain Wu Huan is so decisive. He's using the Dharma form right from the start. The Dharma form and the Dharma form. His bloodline, divine powers, nascent soul and body are all combined. Captain Wu Huan is going all out. This time, Captain Wu Huan is really angry. He's using a killing move right from the start. Kong Teichu is going to die this time. At this moment, many people cried out in surprise. Dharma powers were unleashed at the Golden Core stage. For both nascent soul and Golden Core adepts, Dharma powers were the greatest weapons. His Dharma idol had left his body and broken through the shackles of his physical body. His dharmic powers had been elevated to the extreme. However, as long as the Dharma form did not fuse with the physical body, the danger was not great. If the Dharma form was destroyed, it would only damage a portion of the Golden Core's true essence and dharmic powers. But once FAIN1, spirit, nascent soul, Dharma power, chi blood, and many other factors seemed to have been twisted into a rope. When the limit was strengthened, one's combat ability would be improved by 100 times. However, everything has its drawbacks. Even the Dharma and the One are not exempt from this. If one was severely injured while casting the spell, it would affect all sides. There was basically no chance of escaping. The self-destruction of the nascent soul was the most powerful killing move of a nascent soul cultivator. Once it was used, it was said to be comparable to a soul formation cultivator, and could even severely injure a soul formation cultivator. But everyone thought that Wu Huan was better. Wu Huan had the true bloodline of the heaven-devouring white python. One had to know that the white sky-devouring python was a top-notch spatial creature, very similar to the Taotai divine beast. It was said that the white sky-devouring python with the purest bloodline would create a small world in its body, which could completely devour the world. An adult purebred white sky-devouring python could even devour a planet with a diameter of billions of feet. Due to Wu Huan's special bloodline, he had once followed the many emperors and princes of the Ruins Emperor's Palace to conquer the world, making great contributions. The White Python Guard was named after him. He was one of the 9 commanders, and even the Ruins Emperor's Palace had changed his fate to reward him. It was obvious how powerful Wu Huan was, and how noble his bloodline was. It could be said that although Wu Huan was only half a step into the soul formation realm, because he cultivated the flawless cultivation method passed down by the Ruins Emperor, and had a special bloodline, he could definitely compete with a soul formation expert who was born in the deity ground. However, no matter what, the white sky-devouring python was not a true divine beast. It was far inferior to the Taotai. Moreover, Wu Huan only had a trace of the white sky-devouring python's bloodline, and some innate abilities. He was not a pure white python. As for Jiang Tian's Taotai divine body, it was refined from the darkest stone tablet. It was a true deity material. The power of the Taotai divine body was not much weaker than that of the true Taotai divine beast. You want to compete with me in terms of devouring power? You're courting death. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of contempt as he let out a soft snort. The 30-foot golden core behind him spun slowly as the power of the Taoties returned to the origin was unleashed. It was as if the entire universe was collapsing as countless substances rushed towards the Taotai vortex. Chapter 1466. Even the 1,000 Zhangtal mountains were uprooted from the ground. The Blackstone City, which was like a coiling dragon, was flying towards the Taoties' return to origin. The Taotai returning to origin vortex was shrinking. In the blink of an eye, it was only 100 meters wide. In front of the giant white python, it was as small as a grain of sand under the foot of Mount Tai. But, in this world, the bigger something was, the stronger it was. It was like a fat man who was no match for a strong fist. Even a big bag of cotton couldn't stop a sniper rifle bullet. In fact, the smaller the Taotai returning to origin was, the denser it was, and the heavier it was per unit volume, the stronger the suction and devouring power. Whoosh! The white heaven-devouring python couldn't help but charge toward the vortex. No, how can this be? What kind of law and dharma is this? How can it devour me? Wu Huan let out a thunderous roar, burned his blood, and used thousands of divine powers and thousands of secret techniques, but he couldn't stabilize his body. In fact, many scales and flesh were falling off uncontrollably. Blood and white threads were being pulled toward the vortex. The white python was broken in the middle. Its 1,000-foot-long tail and belly were torn into the tiniest essence chi, and devoured by the Taotai returning to origin. Arg! The white python screamed and scattered its dharma and dharma. Wu Huan's dharma and true body seemed to have been destroyed. The Dharma collapsed and turned into essence chi that was absorbed into the nascent soul. Wu Huan, whose legs were broken and his sternum and waist were shattered into countless pieces, retreated quickly. His blood splashed in the sky and his muscle fibers flew in the air. Swish, swish, swish. Ghost Wolf and many other half-soul formation overlords of the Dark Crow Guards went into the air and appeared behind Jiang Tian in the blink of an eye. They stabbed at him with their Dharma artifacts. They were all expert assassins, either relying on their bloodlines or secret divine abilities. Their movement techniques were extremely fast, and they could even tear apart space. They wanted to besiege Wei to rescue Zhao and rescue Wu Huan. There were also 4 powerful divine generals among the Golden Crow Guards. They turned into streaks of golden light and rushed toward Jiang Tian in an attempt to save Wu Huan. At this instant, the scene was extremely horrifying. The enormous Dharma idol soared through the sky, and it was either surging black lights, blazing flames that burned the sky, or soaring golden lights that possessed magnificent imposing auras. There were laws that rumbled and trembled as they interweaved with order and principle. There were even the experts of the Dark Crow Guard that moved through alternate spaces, appearing and disappearing unpredictably, and it was impossible to guard against. Jiang Tian only snorted softly. The 9-meter-long primal chaos divine disk behind him spun again. The sea-calming ice god law rumbled and formed a true forbidden zone. In that instant, the space around Jiang Tian was locked down and solidified into an iron plate. Countless huge battleships were frozen in the air, like mosquitoes frozen in amber. Even the spatial ripples caused by the Dark Crow Guards condensed in the air and turned into transparent ripples. Some divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards had already broken through the alternate dimension. Half of their bodies had gone into the alternate dimension while the other half of their bodies were frozen in the air. Oh my God, how can there be such a terrifying forbidden zone in this world? At this moment, everyone was screaming and howling. Even if they were nascent soul cultivators or half-step soul formation cultivators, they could not move at all. They could not even move a finger. If the current Jiang Tian wanted to kill them, who would be able to resist or escape? It could be said that Jiang Tian was able to control their life and death with just this one technique. In front of Jiang Tian, they were just fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. I said I'm going to kill you, so I'm going to kill you. Who can stop me? Jiang Tian said resolutely, creating ripples with every step he took, causing the space to fluctuate. Save the captain. At this moment, many Golden Core cultivators of the White Python Guards went crazy. If Wu Huan died, they would also be sentenced to death. That was the rule of the 9 guards. They had to be absolutely loyal. Soldiers were trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single moment. If their general was about to die, wouldn't it be a waste for them to spend so many elixirs and resources to raise them? They burned their golden cores and rushed towards Jiang Tian like rainbows that pierced through the sky. There were more than 1,000 of them, and they went straight for the ice god's forbidden zone, trying to destroy it. But all of that was in vain. Jiang Tian's forbidden zone was extremely solid and hard. They couldn't leave even the slightest crack on it, no matter how hard they tried. Go to hell. After a shout, the 10-foot divine plate behind Jiang Tian shone brightly, like a sun in the sky. It was extremely bright and eye-catching, and the true seal of the law of Taotai was activated to the extreme. Boom. Wu Huan's body, which was said to be indestructible and strong enough to withstand thousands of close-range nuclear explosions, exploded like a balloon. Pieces of divine bones were shot out and blood was everywhere. His nascent soul, which was close to a god, also collapsed and turned into rolling energy, which was absorbed by the Taotai returning to the origin. From the beginning to the end, only a few seconds had passed. The captain of the White Python Guards, a half-soul formation overlord who ranked 3rd among the 9 guards of the Emperor of the Ruins, had died. Everyone went silent. The Golden Core cultivators of the White Python Guards outside were terrified, as if they had lost their parents. They floated outside the ice god's forbidden zone like clay statues, motionless and forgetting to attack or run away. Is the captain dead? After a while, a peak-stage Golden Core cultivator's eyes almost popped out as he said in disbelief. That was too shocking. Wu Huan was infamous in the entire ruins of deity. He had killed all the nascent soul cultivators and was invincible. The white python guards he led had the power to destroy a second-level world. And yet, he had died in such a miserable way on that day. The captain is dead. Another golden core perfected cultivator murmured. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world were extremely shocked. They didn't dare to underestimate Jiang Tian anymore, as if they had seen a devil. Activate the god-killing light cannon. Break his forbidden zone. Kill him. Then Shen Chang gave an order with cold eyes. There was cold sweat on his forehead and he looked unprecedentedly serious, as if he were facing a powerful enemy. In fact, he had never seen a cultivator as fierce and powerful as Jiang Tian. He was only a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator, but he had the ability to kill a half-soul formation cultivator. Besides, he had mastered at least 5 Dharma laws and forbidden zones, including the most terrifying one, the Dimension Forbidden Zone. That was just too evil. Captain Shinchang, we can't do that. The divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards are still controlled by his forbidden zone. If we use the god-killing light cannon to break the dimension, they will all die. A gold core realm cultivator from the Dark Crow Guards said earnestly. In fact, not only were the divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards controlled by Jiang Tian's Ice God Forbidden Zone, but Long Shengnan was also among them. However, no one cared about her life at all. The ruins of deity had a strict hierarchy, and the worlds were separated by a natural barrier. Especially since Long Shengnan was a native of the ancient deity land who was enslaved, those cultivators were even worse than dogs in the eyes of the overlords of the ruins of deity. Even if you were do I need you to question my orders? Shen Chang pointed his finger, and a ray of golden light shot out. The body of the Dark Crow Guard exploded, and even his golden core was shattered. He died instantly. He was decisive and ruthless to the extreme. He would never hesitate or be soft-hearted just because his comrades were held hostage by Jiang Tian. He was definitely a qualified commander. Before Shin Chang finished his sentence, thousands of giant battleships shot out beams of god-killing light cannon. Chapter 1467. Those light beams contained Dharma laws. Even though they were launched by a true artifact, they were large true artifacts. After being strengthened several times, their power was comparable to that of a Tao artifact. They could even destroy the dimension and turn it into a black hole. One attack was equivalent to the explosion of thousands of nuclear weapons. No Golden Core Heavenly Lord would be able to withstand it for a second. It could kill thousands of Golden Core Heavenly Lords, and even nascent Soul Heavenly Lords would die. Even a Soul Formation Grand Cultivator would have a headache when facing thousands of god-killing light cannons at the same time. Boom! The air shook and the shockwaves spread thousands of miles away, as if the sky had been torn apart. The gigantic hurricane was like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves as it swept away the vitality of all living creatures. The ground trembled violently, and many gigantic mountain peaks were snapped in half and razed to the ground. I'm going to die. I'm doomed. Long Shengnan was so terrified that her face turned pale and she trembled. Then, she suddenly realized that she was just an ant in the eyes of the overlords of the ruins of deity. She wasn't worth mentioning at all. She also noticed that the sect masters and elders of 6 of the 7 heavenly sects of the Hylon world had gone to suppress Jiang Tian. Only the Dragon Clan hadn't shown up. It's possible that the Dragon Clan has been exterminated by the Emperor of the Ruins. The Emperor of the Ruins is ruthless. As she was frightened, a thought came to her mind uncontrollably. She was completely engulfed by anger and grief. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and his face was full of disdain. He took a step forward and waved his sleeve, wrapping around Long Shengnan. He used the Kuan-Peng's extreme speed to break through space and enter the strange space, disappearing. Boom! His forbidden domain had indeed been torn apart by the god-destroying light cannon. Even the laws of the immeasurable sea ice god had been shattered. Streaks of spatial cracks of various colors appeared. They were incomparably beautiful and resplendent as they extended through the forbidden domain like tentacles. The dimension was annihilated, forming a dark black hole that was extremely deep. A black hole was an absolute void. Even time and space did not exist within it. It was countless times more empty than a vacuum. For a moment, countless space currents surged toward the black hole like colorful ribbons and rivers. The force field was distorted, causing a terrifying space collapse. Any nascent soul cultivator within a 100-mile radius would be minced into pieces. Even a real soul formation cultivator would be severely injured if they were able to survive. A blood-curdling scream rang out. The mournful wails shook the heavens and earth. Many divine generals of the Dark Crow Guard were skilled in the space escape technique. However, they were helpless in front of the terrifying space collapse. They could not even break free. Crack. Some divine generals' bodies were torn apart, their blood and organs flying in the air. Even their golden cores were cut open neatly. Originally, the golden core fragment should have exploded uncontrollably once it was broken, but for some unknown reason, it did not explode and simply floated in the air. Another divine general exploded in the air, like a rotten watermelon. His broken limbs and blood splashed all over the sky. Then he was crushed into powder and blood mist. There were also some whose heads, limbs, and organs flew in all directions as if they had been torn apart by 5 horses. Even if they were separated by 10 miles, 100 miles, they were still alive. Instead, they were screaming miserably, but they were unable to control their own bodies. There were even divine generals whose bodies had entered spatial fragments. The spatial fragments would sometimes collapse and sometimes expand. Their bodies were like inflated toads that would sometimes expand to a height of 1,000 feet, or even 1,000 feet, covering the sky and the sun. In the next moment, they would become inch-long dolls that were almost invisible. But everyone knew that they were going to die. Both Jiang Tian's Forbidden Land and the God-killing light cannon contain the power of Dharma laws. Once they were affected, they would be permanently damaged and couldn't be healed. It was like a mortal body being exposed to nuclear radiation at a close distance. The power of Dharma laws couldn't be removed easily. It was hidden in their bodies and kept releasing killing intent and death chi. It might not disappear even after they died. Other than Ghost Wolf, many other half-soul formation divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards died, or were severely injured. However, Jiang Tian actually disappeared without a trace. He did not receive the slightest injury. What was invincible? At this moment, the strength that Jiang Tian displayed was called invincible. 8 half-soul formation divine generals, each of whom was extremely powerful and had their own strengths, were killed in an instant. Including the overlords of the White Python Guards, a total of 17 half-soul formation divine generals had died. Clatter, clatter, clatter. How can he be so powerful? He's just a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul formation cultivator, but he killed half-soul formation cultivators as easily as killing chickens. We're too weak. Shi Zhenxiang, the sect master of the Heavenly Incense sect, Jing Shimen, the sect master of the Wendao sect, and the other overlords of the heavenly sects from the Hylon world were terrified. They trembled and their teeth chattered. They were all nascent soul heavenly lords and had sharp eyes. They could certainly see that Jiang Tian's Dharma laws were flawless and perfect. They were even more powerful than the Dharma laws of the Ruins Emperor. Even the direct descendants of Prince Qiuming were no match for him. That made them even more terrified. They had no idea who Jiang Tian was. This guy is too terrifying. His dimension law is too powerful. After he went into the dimension, there weren't any space waves. I can't even see which dimension he went into. Ghost Wolf's face was as pale as a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. Even though he had escaped, he didn't feel good. The dark crow feathers all over his body fell, and the wings formed by his cloak were bleeding. That was because his blood was about to run out and his Dharma power wasn't stable. Where is he? Shen Chong also shouted and looked a bit panicked. He stood majestically in the sky above the fleet of the Golden Crow Guard. His eyes, which were like 2 divine lamps, emitted 2 dazzling pillars of light that were 300 meters long. As they swept around, they seemed to be able to penetrate the deepest depths of hell and see through the sun and moon. This was his supreme eye technique, and it was capable of seeing through alternate spaces, causing all demons and monsters to have nowhere to hide. However, at this moment, he was unable to find a trace of Jiang Tian. His immortal will, which belonged to a half-soul formation cultivator, was pushed out like waves, filling the air in a 1,000-mile range and not letting any detail go. "Are you looking for me?" Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind Xinqiang, which was less than 10 meters away. It sounded like the whisper of a devil from the depths of hell. Damn it! Cold sweat immediately appeared on Xinqiang's forehead. He had never thought that Jiang Tian's dimension art would be so powerful that he didn't even notice him behind him. Golden Crow Claw. Xinqiang didn't even turn around. He formed a claw with his right hand and grabbed behind him. Suddenly, the bird's claw, which was even bigger than a mansion, seemed to be made of precious gold. It shone with a golden light, and even tore the space apart, creating 5 black space cracks. It was extremely dense and sharp as it grabbed towards Jiang Tian. Even more terrifying was that along with this strike of his, blazing and monstrous flames instantly filled the entire sky behind him. The temperature was terrifyingly high, causing all the rocks in an area of 50 kilometers to melt and shatter, causing them to lose all vitality and transform into ash. Those flames were made of extremely advanced fire laws. They could turn all the energy around into a part of the flames, like the sun's essence, and the true fire of the sun. Xinqiang was definitely not weak, and he had a lot of battle experience. He used his ultimate attack right away, using the limit of a half-soul formation cultivator. He didn't talk nonsense or taunt, which would only put him in a passive position. Chapter 1468. Swish. Only Ghost Wolf, the leader of the Dark Crow Guards, could see that Jiang Tian had already slashed 5 or 6 times before he left. These blades didn't have any shape at all, but they were able to easily break through space. They were actually condensed from supreme space laws, and they were like illusions as they silently slashed towards Xinqiang's back. After those slashes, Jiang Tian seemed to be exhausted. He panted slightly before Xinqiang's golden crow claw reached him. He disappeared into the void like a ghost. Void Shattering Slash. That was a space saber technique that could only be used when the Kuan Peng Extreme Speed Divine Body reached the Transcendence Realm. It could directly break through space and destroy everything. It was extremely dangerous. At that moment, Jiang Tian could only use the Kuan Peng Extreme Speed Divine Body to travel through space. It was more of a space escape technique than a space attack technique. It was no longer in the category of ordinary laws. It was close to the Great Tao. Even a normal soul formation realm cultivator might not be able to use it. It was too mysterious and magical. In the eyes of the crowd, Jiang Tian retreated after Xinqiang stretched out his claw and burned the sky. Because Jiang Tian's slash was too fast, no one saw it. He's no match for Captain Xinqiang. He can only run away. Many cultivators from the upper world smiled proudly. Then they heard. Bang, bang, bang. Terrifying explosions spread across the entire Black Rock City and the ancient demon abyss. Xinqiang was like a soccer ball that had been kicked away by someone. He leaped into the air and flew out for over 100 miles. Jiang Tian's Nirvana Void-splitting blade was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. The power of law rolled out like a tide, continuously injuring him. That was the power of laws and order. It was far more powerful than any physical attack, and had a long-lasting effect. Once infected, it could kill you for decades or even centuries. Even though Xinqiang burned his Golden Crow bloodline, and used the sun essence to protect his body, he still couldn't withstand it. Jiang Tian's space blade technique transcended all matter, and the related laws were above all things. Even though Xinqiang's sun essence and true fire were extremely strong to protect his body, he was still slashed to the point where he spurted out blood. Huge wounds opened up on his body as sparkling and translucent god blood dyed the sky. Even the fragments of his internal organs shot out. Wherever the blade aura reached, dozens of metal ships that were a few thousand feet long were split in half. The terrifying dimension laws destroyed everything. Large Dharma artifacts such as the god-destroying light cannons inside the ships were crushed and turned into giant fireballs. The lightning pierced through the sky like a giant python and burned all the Golden Crow warriors on the battleship. Even the nascent soul captain was burnt to ashes. Hiss. At this moment, all the cultivators from the upper realm fell silent. Only the sound of people inhaling cold breaths could be heard, including the Golden Crow mothership that had already turned around and activated the god-destroying light cannon. It also froze in the void. Between the heavens and the earth, space-time gales howled as lightning and flames intersected and rumbled. Countless warriors from the upper world were dumbfounded. The warriors of the Golden Crow Guards didn't come from Fusang and Luya in the Valley of Tang in the ancient deity ground. They were colonists from the Southgate 1 planet. The natives of the Southgate Galaxy were also a famous race in the universe. At least in the Southgate Galaxy, they were a peerless race with extremely powerful bloodlines. Each Golden Crow ship was made with divine mark red copper by hundreds of grand artifact masters from the Divine Craft Hall in the ruins of deities. Countless patterns and dharma laws were engraved on them, and many precious crystals were inlaid. They could withstand dozens of full-strength attacks from a half-soul formation cultivator, and were extremely powerful in terms of defense. Jiang Tian had destroyed dozens of ships with only the aftermath of the blade aura. His power was indeed shocking and unbelievable. He was far more powerful than normal half-soul formation cultivators. Not even Shen Chong could do that. And there was Shen Chong. He was the leader of the 9 guards that Prince Chioming valued the most powerful half-soul formation cultivator, who was infinitely close to the soul formation cultivator. He was famous across the world and dominated the worlds of the ruins of deities. Yet today he ended up in such a state, suppressed and beaten by Jiang Tian. At this moment, everyone was awakened. They all realized that Jiang Tian's power wasn't as simple as they thought. They had underestimated Jiang Tian's divine powers and dharma laws. Not even Captain Shen Chong can defeat him. The overlords of the 6 heavenly sects of Hailan were so scared that they couldn't wait to run away. Is that a golden core cultivator? Is that a nascent soul cultivator? Haha, even a soul formation cultivator can't do much. Fairy Yaoyu was terrified. She only felt that the ant in the desolate galaxy in her eyes had suddenly transformed into a primordial divine beast that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, capable of swallowing the heavens and devouring the earth, and sweeping through all the worlds in the universe. What a peerless sword! I'm afraid I don't have a chance anymore. Wu Shujian wanted to cry and stomped his feet. He was indeed a sword maniac. He was still thinking about Jiang Tian's heaven-extinguishing sword. However, as soon as he thought about the heaven-extinguishing sword, his body trembled and his face turned pale. He pulled Fairy Yaoyu back 3,000 miles. He said with a trembling voice, "This is still not his limit. Once he uses that peerless sword, it'll be even more terrifying. It's hard to say who will win this battle." His attitude had changed. What? Will Kong Teichu win? These are the 3 Golden Crow Guards. There are 100,000 Golden Core cultivators here. Fairy Yaoyu widened her eyes as if she were listening to a legend. 100,000 Golden Core cultivators was actually just a title. Even though some of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators, they were natives of the Southgate Galaxy after all. Their divine powers were compatible with the world, and their Tao was natural. They could completely suppress the Golden Core perfected cultivators, who came from the universe, and practiced the traditional cultivation arts of the ancient deity land. So, they were also counted as Golden Core cultivators. Some cultivators were at the Foundation Establishment level, but they could still display the power of a Golden Core cultivator with their Dharma treasures. But no matter what, there were at least tens of thousands of Golden Core powerhouses. They were like an iron curtain that covered the sky. Who could break through it? Just wait and see. Kong Teichu is indeed a Golden Core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator, but he's mastered too many Dharma laws. It's like a few nascent soul cultivators working together, and his Dharma laws are too perfect. Wu Shujian was certain that he could already see the tragic fate of Shen Chong and the others. He became serious and thought of many things. If Prince Chioming couldn't defeat Kong Teichu after losing 3 guards, it would be an unprecedented defeat, and even the Emperor of the Ruins would be alerted. Besides, the emperors and princes of the Ruins Emperor's palace were all fighting for power. The situation was extremely complicated, and there might be some chaos. His thoughts ran wild. On the battlefield. Ah! How can you hurt me? Shen Chong roared angrily, unable to accept the reality. Just now, he had pushed his Golden Crow bloodline to its limits. Even Sun Essence and Quintessential Fire were unleashed. Yet he still failed to stop Jiang Tian. He had suffered several saber wounds, and was in an extremely tragic state. At that moment, his armor was shattered and there were several deep saber wounds on his broad back. They were all penetrating wounds and one could see his pulsating organs, pale golden bones and blood. Within the saber wounds, countless Kuanpeng laws that could destroy space spiraled and swept across. They were formed from Kuanpeng runes that were smaller than atoms. They were extremely unstable and filled with destructive power. They forcefully tore open his wounds, and even spread into his body. Chi, 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 chi. His expression was extremely grave as his hands trembled. He formed hand seals and chanted incantations. He used the astral steps and roared repeatedly to stimulate his golden crow bloodline. The nascent soul roared as flames that resembled quintessential fire, and sun essence erupted from his wounds. It was the external manifestation of the golden crow's fire elemental laws. A wisp of flame could penetrate metal and stone, incinerate the heavens and boil the seas. It was extremely hot and intense as it attempted to burn Jiang Tian's Kuanpeng space-shattering laws. Chapter 1469. Tisk TSK TSK. I've attacked you 5 times, but I still can't kill you. You're really strong. In the end, many ships fell. When the dust settled, Jiang Tian's figure flashed again in the vast sky, shaking his head regretfully. It seemed that he was frustrated that he couldn't kill Shen Chong with a few attacks. Many people were shocked and angry. That was too infuriating and arrogant. A country bumpkin from a desolate planet dares to ride on our necks and pee. That kid is too arrogant. I can't stand it. Many people gnashed their teeth in hatred, wishing they could chew Jiang Tian to pieces. However, there were even more people who were trembling with fear and felt a chill in their hearts. Thinking about Jiang Tian's rise, although he was arrogant and unruly, although he seemed to be extremely reckless, almost every battle was a direct confrontation, and he did not use any schemes or tricks. But had he ever failed? No. He had been pushing all the way, starting from Earth and conquering all the dimensional worlds in the solar system. Then, he crossed 4 light years and arrived at the South Gate 1 planet. He swept and destroyed everything. If he wasn't 100% sure, he wouldn't have contacted you at all. He would only give you a thunderous blow when he had accumulated enough capital. Besides, he had an aura. At that moment, Jiang Tian's clothes were ragged and torn, revealing his strong and blood-stained body. His shoulder-length black hair was fluttering in the wind like a black waterfall. His body was as straight as a javelin. His eyes were like swords and his energy was like a rainbow. There was a kind of domineering and awe-inspiring aura that could sweep the world and destroy all living things, which made people's hearts palpitate. Protect Captain Shen Chong. At that moment, the 8 divine generals under Shen Chong's command all lined up and took up positions in all directions. Their violent energy filled the air as they confronted Jiang Tian. Shen Chong was troubled by the Kuanpeng space-breaking law left by Jiang Tian at the moment, and couldn't be repaired. He was like a leaking balloon, unable to exert his power at all. Hylon Heavenly Sex, I didn't ask you to come down to the lower bound for sightseeing. All of you, attack Jiang Taichu. If anyone dares to back down, kill them all. One of the divine generals roared furiously. In their eyes, Hylon was a low-level world, and was a descendant of the ancient celestial lands. That meant that they were slaves who were captured to be cannon fodder. However, because Wu Huan and the other master divine generals thought that killing Jiang Tian was foolproof, they took action themselves. In the end, they suffered heavy casualties. This made him very unhappy. He wanted nothing more than to kill these sea wave cultivators to vent his anger. Yes, we obey. Even though the potentates of the heavenly sect, such as Jing Shimin, were trembling with fear, they didn't dare to defy Jiang Tian. Because under the blue sky was the human world. Cultivators were also humans. They had Tao companions and children, and they also had feelings. If they didn't fight, not only would they be killed, their Tao companions and children would also be exterminated. Dark Crow Guard, support Captain Shen Chong. Ghost Wolf ordered. Activate the God-destroying light cannon. Shoot them down. A divine general ordered. Activate the divine shield of the warship and defend the front. All the captains were shouting at the same time. This was very rare because these ships were still indestructible even if they didn't activate the Dharma artifacts. This design was originally used to deal with the cultivators from other planets. However, in fact, no cultivators from other planets had appeared in the Southgate galaxy for thousands of years, so this design was considered superfluous. And yet, it was activated that day. As the orders were passed down one after another, rumble, layers upon layers of defensive formations spread out on the ships like blooming lotuses. There were white pythons biting the sun, golden crows breathing fire, divine crows howling, Xian snakes and divine turtles. Countless strange phenomena appeared in the sky. This was the external appearance of the Dharma artifacts' Dharma powers. They were extremely powerful, 10 times stronger than the Dharma arrays of the Black Rock City. They could withstand an attack from a Soul Formation Grand Cultivator. Haha. Everything is in vain. I told you that you'll all die here today. While they were preparing, Jiang Tian had already begun to attack. Shenchong, don't waste your time. You can't break my Dharma laws. The only thing waiting for you is death. He didn't attack at close range. Instead, he appeared 100 kilometers away, and then he tore through the sky like a golden rainbow. Amidst his long laughter, he swaggered and charged toward Shenchong. Kill. A heavenly sect from the Hylon world attacked Jiang Tian from the side. More than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords joined forces and attacked together. How powerful would 30 nascent soul heavenly lords be when they attacked together? Besides, they knew how powerful Jiang Tian was, so they didn't show any mercy. The essence chi within a 100-mile radius was immediately sucked out, and the sky collapsed. This attack was enough to destroy everything within a 100-mile radius. More than 30 completely different laws and powers converged into a torrent of energy that crashed down from the 9th heaven like a heavenly river. The chaotic light pillar was as thick as a mountain. It brought with it endless destructive power. It was going to smash Jiang Tian, the Black Rock City, and even the ancient demon abyss into dust. Facing this destructive attack, all the cultivators on the side were speechless. Qi Jui was so frightened that he trembled and almost fell to the ground. Senior, Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui wanted to shout, but they couldn't. Their hearts were about to explode from the violent pressure. But the next second, Jiang Tian waved his hand as if he were sweeping away dust. It was as if a universe had been born from the bottom of his sleeves, reversing the sun and the moon. Heaven and earth were in chaos. The energy torrent that was as thick as a heavenly pillar was actually shattered into pieces. In the next moment, it was blown away by the endless astral winds, and not even a drop of residue was left. He's so powerful. Ao Jiao finally realized that Jiang Tian's 2 breakthroughs in the ancient demon abyss weren't simple. They were 10 times or 100 times more powerful. When he was facing more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords above the 18 islands, Jiang Tian had to fight for a long time, and even used the heavenly sword. But now Jiang Tian had really destroyed them with a wave of his sleeve. No nascent soul heavenly lords could stop him. How is that possible? The sect master of the heavenly sect was someone who was on par with Long Baxia. He also thought highly of himself, but he couldn't even withstand a wave of Jiang Tian's sleeve. Again, he shouted. He didn't want to accept failure. He used his immortal will and used his secret art to kill Jiang Tian, even if he had to burn his nascent soul. It's too late. But Jiang Tian didn't give them a chance. Poof. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of countless cultivators, Jiang Tian casually pointed out with his finger, as if it was an understatement. The sect master of the heavenly sect, who was a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator and a mid-grade nascent soul cultivator, who was the vanguard and wanted to make a contribution, was directly blown up in the air. Countless scarlet blood splashed in the air, and broken limbs flew everywhere. After that, Jiang Tian waved his hand again. A golden blade aura 100 feet long cut 8 nascent soul elders and hall masters in half. Even their nascent souls didn't manage to escape in time, and were crushed into powder by the Dharma laws of metal. In the end, Jiang Tian thought it was too slow to kill, so he turned into a beam of golden light and flashed into the crowd. He didn't rely on any dermic powers, nor did he use any Dao techniques. He relied purely on his physical body to charge forward. Like a golden comet shooting across the sky, he was like an extremely sharp heavenly sword that sliced through butter as he crashed into the group of heavenly sect cultivators who had attacked him. Boom! Above the ancient demon abyss, dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords from the upper world were hit by Jiang Tian, or swept by his tail. All of them exploded as if they had been hit by a space battleship. Their sturdy bodies couldn't withstand the impact at all, and even their nascent souls were crushed. In a blink, the nascent soul heavenly lords of the ocean waves heavenly sect, who were a few hundred miles away, retreated much faster than when they attacked. All the overlords of the ocean waves heavenly sect, including the divine generals, looked at him in fear. Qi Jiui Mingi, Ta Kong and even Wu Shujian widened their eyes. Countless creatures in the Yingzhou state, including mortals, cultivators and beasts, were also dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. At that moment, the entire world was in silence. That was an unprecedented terror, which made everyone's hair stand on end. It was even more shocking than when Jiang Tian killed so many semi-god realm cultivators. Chapter 1470. That was because Jiang Tian didn't use any divine powers or dharma forms. He only used his body to smash dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords. Just how tough is this kid's body? Even a soul formation body can't compare to him. Many nascent soul heavenly lords of the Hylon world thought. However, this was not the end. Jiang Tian drew a series of arcs in the sky. His body turned into a golden rainbow, and he was like a peerless heavenly blade sweeping through everything in his path. He was unscrupulous. Rumble! Another Sea Billow World's Empyrean sect camp was torn apart. Blood dyed the sky and severed limbs flew everywhere. It was incomparably bloody and callous. Run! He's terrifying. My leg! Dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords were screaming and running away. They couldn't resist at all. They were smashed into pieces like wooden sculptures being smashed by a giant hammer. Stop! How dare you? Kong Teichu, don't be so arrogant. The divine generals of the Golden Crow Guards were shocked. They had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful. He had reached the level of evilness and evil. Not even a half-soul formation cultivator could kill a nascent soul cultivator so easily with his body. I'll fight you. Two of the divine generals stepped out and charged towards Jiang Tian. The remaining divine generals stood guard around Xinchang, protecting him as he healed. The two divine generals had cold expressions, as if they were high and mighty gods looking down on a wild beast. Golden aura swirled around them, and flames spewed out of them. Boom! Jiang Tian didn't dare to underestimate them. He immediately activated the Gung Metal Fist, and threw a punch at one of them. Gung Metal Fist. The Gung Metal immortal body was unleashed, and his fist was imbued with a deathless, indestructible aura that could destroy anything. The sun and the moon were reversed, and heaven and earth were thrown into chaos. A spatial tunnel was opened. That was the 9th divine general of the Golden Crow, Xinchang's brother. He had a noble status among the Golden Crows in the ruins of deity, and was also very powerful. But in the face of Jiang Tian's punch, the 9th divine general turned into a streak of resplendent golden light. He wanted to dodge, but he still let out a miserable howl. Half of his body was blasted apart. Golden blood splattered everywhere. His severed limbs were sent flying with surging flames. Everyone was shocked, not daring to believe it. The 9th Golden Crow Divine General was extremely powerful. The Golden Crow Guard was the head of the 9 guards, and the 9 guards of the Golden Crow Guard were the most powerful and terrifying of all the divine generals in the 9 guards. The 9th Golden Crow Divine General's strength was on par with the other guard captains. He was very famous in the ruins of immortality. Moreover, this Kong Teichu's strength seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. As the battle progressed, he could actually defeat a half-step divine transformation realm cultivator with one punch. It was too terrifying. Jiang Tian pointed in the air and was about to kill the 9th Golden Crow Divine General. At this moment, the 6th-ranked Divine General rushed over and roared, "Don't hurt my 9th brother!" He was like a great sun that covered the sky. Golden light shone resplendently as flames surged outwards. He relied on the Golden Crow bloodline's innate divine ability to control metal and flame natural laws. It was extremely rare and powerful. "You're courting death." Jiang Tian didn't hold back at all. He waved his fingers and the gung metal divine blade swept forward, directly cutting the sixth Golden Crow divine general in half. Even his nascent soul was crushed. "Kong Teichu, you'll be hunted down for going against the Ruins Emperor's palace and Prince Qiuming. Prince Qiuming will cut you into pieces even if he has to go to the ends of the world. You'll have to fall to hell and never be burned to ashes." Before his nascent soul was completely destroyed, the sixth divine general was still cursing and roaring with hatred. He couldn't accept that he had been killed by an outsider from a barren planet. "You'll be the one to go to hell first. Go to hell with your resentment." Jiang Tian performed the return of the Taotai and completely swallowed his nascent soul, turning it into the purest energy and infusing it into the golden core of the divine plate. The cores representing the red sparrow and gung metal seemed to have become more solid and resplendent. Then he flicked his finger and penetrated the forehead of the ninth Golden Crow divine general, who was about to retreat to the army. Even his nascent soul was crushed. "Kill. Let's attack together. He's too powerful. If we don't get rid of him today, he'll be a huge threat in the future. Avenge ninth and sixth brother." The other Golden Crow divine generals also yelled, and led 100 nascent soul heavenly lords to surround Jiang Tian, like an iron curtain in the sky. "You're courting death." Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all. He took out the sky-shaking bow and moved around while shooting arrows in all directions. Those divine generals and grand cultivators couldn't dodge in time, and died while screaming. The sky-shaking bow was a treasure left from the ancient times. Its power was unpredictable, and it had once killed the light sacred ones on earth. At the moment, the treasure was in Jiang Tian's hands. It complemented Jiang Tian's 9 divine bodies and 9 laws, making him 10 times more powerful. Every time the 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun, it would shoot out arrows of different attributes, containing different laws of fire. There were golden arrows, ice arrows, fire arrows, wooden arrows, and so on. There were so many different types of arrows that it was impossible to guard against. It's like shooting an eagle with a bow. It's too easy and casual. In the distance, many cultivators from the upper worlds were frightened. Kong Teichu attacked ruthlessly without any restraint. The situation of the battle had taken a turn for the worse. He had already gained the absolute advantage, and had become the main character on the battlefield. Swish, swish, swish. Jiang Tian shot at the other divine generals and grand cultivators to distract them. His real targets were Shen Chang and Ghost Wolf. At this moment, Shen Chang and Ghost Wolf were in a sorry state. They were being chased by arrows, and the entire place was in chaos. The sharp arrows pierced through the air. Each of them was a mile long and contained the power of laws. They pierced through space. They contained the power of laws and seemed to have spirituality. If they didn't hit the target, they would fly and chase for a long time. They were like cruise missiles. "Ah, Kong Teichu, if I weren't injured, I would have killed you as easily as killing a chicken." Shen Chang's hair was disheveled as he shouted in exasperation. He had just removed the heptametal law from a few saber scars when he was shot again, causing one of his arms to explode. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never suffered such a serious injury or suffered such a great loss. Moreover, he was even more miserable this time. His body was infected by 7 or 8 laws. The situation was complicated and extremely difficult to remove. He was like a patient who had been exposed to nuclear radiation. The laws were invading his nascent soul like maggots. Shen Chang took out flaming feathers, which became bigger in the wind and fluttered around him like flaming flags. This was the remains of a soul formation grand cultivator of their ancestor when he passed away. It contained a vast amount of Dharma power, trying to block Jiang Tian's attack. "Captain, enter the Golden Crow's mothership to heal," a divine general shouted. Half of his body was broken and stained with blood. He used his Dharma power to block Jiang Tian's arrows, but he was shot away like a rag doll. "Escort me into the mothership." Although Shen Chang was unwilling, he had to accept reality and could only give the order. Jiang Tian's methods were too terrifying. He attacked from afar and at close range. With one arrow, nascent soul cultivators fell like rain. His punches and kicks could kill divine generals. He was simply invincible. Chapter 1471. In the end, Xinqiang finally made it into the Golden Crow's mothership after losing 2 divine generals and injuring many nascent soul cultivators. Rumble. The many arrows that Jiang Tian released hit the Golden Crow mothership. Instantly, they exploded like fireworks. They did not penetrate the mothership and did not even leave many marks. All cultivators, get into the ships. Activate the Dharma artifacts on the ships and fire from afar. A divine general gritted his teeth and ordered, his eyes red with hatred. Originally, Shaoqian thought that with the 3 guards and 6 sects working together, killing Jiang Tian in the lower realm would be as easy as going on a scenic tour. They had never thought that they would suffer such a cruel defeat. More than 20 famous half-step divine transformation realm cultivators had died, and countless nascent soul heavenly lords had died. This was a great loss for them, and they couldn't bear it. However, he still had to order everyone to retreat into the ship to avoid the brunt of the attack. Under Jiang Tian's full power, whether it was the original leveled cultivators, or those who were half a step away from the divine transformation realm, they were all crushed like mud. Swish, swish, swish. In fact, Shi Jinxiang, Jing Shimin and the other nascent soul heavenly lords had already lost their minds. However, they didn't dare to retreat because the 3 guards were supervising the battle. After receiving the order, they didn't hesitate at all. They all jumped into the ships like homeless dogs. Those ships were made with rare metals, and were engraved with countless patterns and Dharma laws. They could withstand the attack of a half-soul formation cultivator, and last for a while. Kong Teichu, I'm going to cut you into pieces today. If I recover, you'll die within 3 attacks. Xinqiang shouted. He had used all kinds of secret arts and paid a great price to suppress the Dharma laws left in his wounds. He could still fight. After all, the cultivators entered the ships. Fire. As the order was given, beams of light, black light, and blazing fire interweaved and shot towards Jiang Tian. Every single one of them was extremely dangerous. Yao Yu Fairy asked, Brother Shujian, what do you think will happen next? The fleets of the 3 guards have been here for 10,000 years. There are countless arrays and foundations on each ship, especially on the mothership. Even if Jiang Taichu is very strong, has a strong physical body, and can control supreme laws, it is still very difficult for him to destroy these ships. Wu Shujian shook his head and said, That's because the divine generals are too weak. It can be said that Captain Shun and the others were too careless in this battle. If they had hidden in the Golden Crow mothership and attacked from the beginning, they might not have been able to take down Jiang Taichu with such heavy losses. However, even if Jiang Taichu is unable to kill Xinqiang and annihilate the 3 guards and 6 sects, with the strength he has displayed now, it would be difficult for Xinqiang and the others to kill him. Right now, Jiang Taichu can come and go as he pleases. He's invincible and nothing can stop him. When the surrounding cultivators heard this, all of them were terrified. Even Yao Yu Fairy was startled, and her heart was in turmoil. The mighty 3 Golden Crow guards were like heavenly soldiers in the ruins of deity. They were invincible. The 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world were also powerful. And yet 100,000 Golden Core cultivators, a few hundred nascent soul cultivators and many half-soul formation cultivators were suppressed by one person. If this news were to spread to the upper worlds, it would cause a huge uproar. Even if Jiang Taichu didn't manage to kill all of them in the end, the fact that he was able to kill a half-step soul formation cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator at the same time shows that he's a genius. He can be considered the #1 cultivator in the ocean wave world. Many people exclaimed. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian hid in the dimension and showed up from time to time to avoid the attacks from the ships. His eyes were calm and emotionless. Kong Teichu, I'll recover soon. You're no match for me. Why don't we shake hands and make peace? If you surrender now, I won't kill you. Instead, I'll ask Prince Qiuming to spare your life. Prince Qiuming needs people, and I think he'll use you. I'm not kidding, and I won't go back on my words. Everyone here can be a witness. Xinqiang said in a deep voice as he quickly repaired his body. At this moment, Everyone thought that Jiang Tian would go with the flow and lower his head to admit defeat. After all, he was already the most powerful cultivator in the world. There was nothing embarrassing about surrendering to Prince Qiuming. But Jiang Tian shouted, "Prince Qiuming, who does he think he is? He's not worthy of being looked at by me, Kang Taechu. Shake hands and make peace? You don't know that this world already belongs to me, Kang Taechu. From the moment you invaded this world without any prior notice, your fates were already sealed. You can only die." After he said that, "How dare you? In your dreams, bastard!" Angry roars could be heard from the warships. Then there was an earth-shattering explosion. Beams of light shot across the sky, wind howled and the sun appeared in the sky. The Dharma artifacts on the ships were all activated. The area where Jiang Tian was immediately turned into a chaotic current. The sky darkened and the sun and moon dimmed. Each wave of Dharma laws could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. Thousands of Dharma laws filled the sky and surged towards Jiang Tian like an ocean. Jiang Tian was not afraid at all. His tattered clothes fluttered in the wind, making flapping sounds. Around his body, there was a 10-zhang-long black Taotai vortex. All the light pillars, dark winds, and flames that came in front of the vortex immediately fell into it, vanishing into thin air as they were devoured. "Shinchang, do you think you still have a chance to recover?" Jiang Tian snickered and mocked. "Do you think I can't do anything to you if you hide in your turtle shell? Fine. Today I'll let you so-called deities, divine officials and divine generals of the upper world see what real power is." Jiang Tian's words were resolute and decisive. Hee, this kid. Does he really want to destroy our ship? He can indeed destroy normal ships, but what about the space carriers? Didn't he see that when his arrow hit the mothership, it exploded and didn't even leave a white mark? Many cultivators mocked Jiang Tian. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was like an ant trying to shake a tree. He was laughable and overestimating himself. Just as the crowd was mocking Jiang Tian, they suddenly saw Jiang Tian reach out and grab at the ancient demon abyss. Rumble. Under the horrified gaze of countless people, a 10,000-foot mountain rose from the ground and flew above the Golden Crow space carriers. It fell from the sky like a falling asteroid. At this moment, countless cultivators from the upper world looked up in shock. 10,000 feet was dozens of miles. A mountain that was dozens of miles tall was almost the size of a city on Earth. Jiang Tian's grab forcefully lifted up an entire city, and then smashed it down from above. How terrifying was that power? How terrifying was his strength? He was like a god. Clang! The 10,000-foot mountain smashed into the Golden Crow space carriers. The defensive array that had been activated long ago was completely activated under the violent collision. Flames burned the sky and sword energy shot into the sky, illuminating thousands of miles. The huge mountain was blocked by the defense and attack of the defensive array. In the end, it collapsed. Haha. Kang Taechu, do you think you can destroy my Golden Crow space carriers with a few broken stones? Are you kidding me? How ignorant. Just as Shinchang showed a mocking smile. Mountain come. The 3-foot bright disk behind him spun. Jiang Tian was shrouded by the shadow of the thick earth dragon. He roared like a dragon and grabbed with both hands. Second one. Third one. Fourth one. Jiang Tian was like a god in the myths and legends. He had infinite divine power. As soon as he reached out his hand, a gigantic mountain weighing hundreds of millions of tons was lifted and smashed down with a rumble. Almost in the blink of an eye, he grabbed hundreds of mountains and the Golden Crow space carriers were hit hundreds of times. Chapter 1472. How is that possible? Looking at the mountains that were falling like rain, Shinchang's smile froze on his face and he couldn't smile anymore. Nascent soul cultivators could only lift a 1,000-foot mountain at most. It was already difficult to lift a 100,000-foot mountain, and they had to burn their nascent souls. However, Jiang Tian could easily lift 100,000-foot mountains and smash them with the power of heaven and earth. It was terrifying and not even a half-soul formation cultivator could do that. Defend. Open the array. Open the array completely. Retreat. Retreat. Shen Chong gave many orders with his immortal will. Rumble. Kucha. Above the Golden Crow's mothership, the layers of protective formations collapsed and exploded under this wild and destructive force. After 100 mountains fell, the Golden Crow's mothership was already half dead. At least half of the arrays were destroyed and flames and black smoke were everywhere. Phew! Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, the Golden Crow's mothership retreated quickly and spewed out flames towards Jiangtian. Many ships surged like tides and crossed the sky, shooting at Jiangtian. The divine disk behind Jiangtian spun, and a mighty winged dragon jumped out with a craggy ancient stone cauldron in its arms. Jiangtian sneered and said, "The first 100 mountains are just the appetizer. This is my real attack. Everyone, you can leave your last words." The winged dragon came out with the cauldron and flew above the Golden Crow's mothership, smashing the primal chaos stone cauldron down from the sky. When the cauldron came out, it was easy at first and there were no Dharma power fluctuations. Kong Teichu must be exhausted. He actually used a small stone cauldron to smash people. He must be exhausted. He's just a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. It's already difficult for him to lift 100,000-foot mountain, let alone 100 at once. I'm afraid he'll vomit blood later. A stone cauldron the size of a millstone wants to smash our Golden Crow's mothership. His head must have been kicked by a donkey. Many cultivators from the higher realms didn't recognize the might of the primal chaos source cauldron. They couldn't help but mock and ridicule it, laughing like pigs. However, the more the primal chaos source cauldron smashed down, the more grand and terrifying its might became. In the end, it was as if a vast continent was pressing down. Chaotic chi swirled around and each chaotic chi could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. There were more than thousands of them at the moment. Countless galactic crystal sands turned into mountains and giant rocks that were shot out in all directions, as if billions of nuclear weapons had been detonated. Each of them had the power to destroy the world. The galaxy crystal sand was only a derivative of the primal chaos source cauldron, but at this moment, it could easily crush ships and even tear apart true artifact-level defensive arrays. For a moment, rumble! The ships collapsed one after another, bursting into flames. Billowing black smoke soared into the sky like smoke signals. The world was in chaos. Ah! Help! Senior Taichu, spare my life. For a time, countless cultivators, at least 10 or 20,000, were crushed, burned, or minced into meat paste, whether golden core or nascent soul. At that moment, the heavens cried out in unison, shaking everything within 10,000 miles. There was nothing left in the sky except for the giant stone cauldron that carried the energy of the beginning of the world. It was as heavy as a world, and its power suppressed the world. No Dharma arrays or Dharma treasures could resist it. Even a half-soul formation cultivator would have to suffer in front of it. Bang! In the end, they were fiercely smashed by the chaotic source cauldron. Under the copious and irresistible force of the cauldron, countless formations were like eggshells that were struck by a sledgehammer, and they didn't even persist for a single instant before shattering into pieces. In the end, the entire Golden Crow's mothership was crushed by the primal chaos source cauldron like a clay toy and fell into an endless sea of fire. At that moment, none of the 10,000 golden core cultivators on the ship survived. Even 100 famous nascent soul heavenly lords were burned to ashes and crushed into powder. How is that possible? Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Many people didn't know how powerful the Golden Crow's mothership was. That wasn't strange. This was because ever since the Golden Crow mothership was successfully built, it had always been able to kill anything that stood in its way. It was invincible. Nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators were no match for it. And yet, looking at the Golden Crow's mothership that was blown away like a sand sculpture, everyone felt that everything was like a nightmare. The Golden Crow's mothership, which was 10,000 feet long and had been built by heavenly craftsmen for hundreds of years and countless heavenly treasures, as well as countless Golden Crow guards on it, were turned into ashes after Jiang Tian's attack. Not even a drop of dust was left. Only black smoke and metal pieces were left in the sky. The majestic ship was nowhere to be seen. It seemed to have been wiped out from the world by an entity, The entire Golden Crow's mothership and the cultivators on it had disappeared. Below them, however, appeared an imprint that was extremely deep and dark, like a lake in a high gorge. It was created by the energy of the primal chaos source cauldron. This attack is comparable to that of a soul formation cultivator and a grand cultivator. Many people were dumbfounded and their souls were about to leave their bodies. He didn't do it with his own power, but with that strange stone cauldron. Many nascent soul heavenly lords with sharp eyes suddenly realized something. But there was nothing to say. This was a battlefield, not a battle in a sect where the winner was king and the loser was an ant. Nobody had the right to restrict the other's means. Using Dharma treasures, Dharma artifacts, sneak attacking, or even holding the other's family and friends hostage. It was enough to kill the other party. That stone cauldron is so powerful. It's definitely a deity treasure. Why is Kong Taechu so lucky? He's from the solar system, but he has so many treasures. Wu Shujian was envious. He was sure that if that stone cauldron appeared in the ruins of deity, it would cause a huge uproar and many princes would want to fight for it. Kong Taechu has turned the tables. Could it be that he will win? Fairy Yaoyu's eyes also widened in shock. I guess so. Wu Shujian heaved a sigh and said, Shin Chong hasn't destroyed the Dharma laws left by Kong Taechu yet. If he fights with Kong Taechu, he won't have a chance of winning. Besides, a defeated army is like a landslide. Kong Taechu has even destroyed the most powerful Golden Crow mothership. The other ships aren't safe at all. Before he finished, he saw a few black dots flying out from the ruins of the Golden Crow mothership. They were Shen Chong and a few other divine generals and heavenly lords. At this time, Shen Chong's hair was messy and his body was covered in blood. His armor was broken and his robe was torn. He looked like a stray dog. The chaotic source stone cauldron was a deity treasure. It was owned by Emperor Zhongli in the past. It had the power of nature and could nourish thousands of creatures. It had countless uses and was invaluable. If it fell into the hands of a soul formation overlord, he could create a grotto heaven. If a deity emperor obtained it, he could create a galaxy great world. If the primordial chaos god was able to create a universe, he could even create a universe. Jiang Tian's full-powered attack with the chaotic source stone cauldron was terrifying. Unless it was a nascent soul heavenly lord in a cabin with multiple protection, or a half-step soul formation cultivator with many Dharma artifacts, no one could resist that attack. Even so, only a few of them survived. Almost all of them were wiped out. Kong Taechu, you destroyed my mothership, killed my brothers and slaughtered my guards. Even the water of the heavenly river can't wash away this hatred. Shin Chong gritted his teeth and almost spurted out blood. Now I've sacrificed 500 years of my life to destroy the Dharma laws you left in my body. My power has fully recovered. Today, if I don't destroy your body and extract your divine soul, I won't be the captain of the Golden Crow Guards, Shin Chong. Wu Shujian was shocked. Although Shin Chong was in a mess, the wounds on his body had healed and Jiang Tian's Dharma laws had also been erased. It's over. This time, Kong Taechu is in danger. Shin Chong's power alone can surpass all the divine generals. Wu Shujian rubbed his palms and thought about Jiang Tian's heaven-extinguishing sword again. Haha, do you think you can fight with me just because you've recovered your power? You're dreaming. I can kill you with one slash. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold when he saw this. He didn't say anything and directly took out the absolute heaven sword. He flicked the sword and sang loudly. Clanging sounds rang out, and his battle intent rose steadily. Chapter 1473. Kong Taechu, Captain Shin Chong has fully recovered. He's a peerless half-soul formation cultivator. Do you think you're a match for him? Stop resisting stubbornly. Your end is here. Surrender. This is your only chance. Don't make a mistake. After a brutal battle, there were only 3 divine generals left of the Golden Crow Guards. They had suffered heavy losses and their morale was extremely low. But when they saw that Shin Chong had recovered, they became more confident again, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They only thought that Jiang Tian would be vulnerable as long as Shin Chong was there. Jiang Taichu, We admit that we made a mistake and underestimated you. But you're still no match for Captain Shin Chong. No matter how strong you are, you're only a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator, while he's infinitely close to the soul formation cultivator. This is the difference between mortals and deities, humans and gods. It's like a natural chasm that can't be crossed. Kneel down and surrender. You've killed too many people. That's unforgivable. Even Jing Shimin and Shi Jinxiang, who had been scared out of their wits, walked out of the ship and jumped up and down, scolding Jiang Tian, trying to persuade him to surrender and threaten him. I've killed too many people. That's unforgivable. Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. His eyes were as cold as steel. He asked coldly, "How many people did you kill when you invaded this world? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, right? Aren't they human? You came to assassinate me without declaring war. Do you think I should just stretch out my neck and let you kill me without any resistance? Your lives are important, but are our lives not important?" That's right. A golden crow divine general took a step forward and said arrogantly, "That's right. All the creatures in the lower worlds, including mortals, cultivators, civilians and emperors, must listen to the orders of the upper worlds and the ruins of deity. We have the power to kill and take. If we want you to die, you have to kill yourself to atone for your sins. If we want to kill you, you should wash your necks and wait for us to chop them off." Why? Jiang Tian's eyes were as cold as ice and his killing intent became stronger. Why? Kong Teichu, you are the strongest person in the solar system. Don't tell me you don't understand this logic. Although the other divine general was covered in blood and had fled like a wild dog after being beaten by Jiang Tian, he was still extremely arrogant at the moment. It's very simple. In the cultivation world, the strong are respected, and the weak are ants. This is the truth of justice. You are too weak, so you should be bullied, enslaved, and killed. Ha ha ha. Do you know what happened to the people who spoke to me like that? It was a dimensional world in the solar system, West Earth. The Buddhist sect has led an army of 100,000 from the various countries to wipe out Mo. Jiang Tian threw his head back and let out a long laugh. Then his expression turned cold as he said in a deep voice, "With a sharp weapon in your heart, your killing intent will be aroused. With my ability, who can stop me if I kill unhindered? But all these years, I've been reminding myself to maintain a peaceful heart, and a heart that sympathizes with the mortal world. If I want to become a soul formation cultivator, I have to become a mortal first. You always think you're very strong, but you don't know that in my eyes, you and the Ruins Emperor are ants that I can crush with a raise of my hand. You're very weak. But weakness is never an obstacle to survival. Arrogance is. Now, you'll pay the price for your arrogance. I don't want to kill anyone, but you have a death wish. Well, it's been a long time since I've killed so happily. Then die." As Jiang Tian's final words left his mouth, he swung his sword across the sky and slashed out. The 10-foot bright disk behind him spun rapidly. Endless true essence and the power of Dharma laws were injected into heaven-annihilating sword, turning into a giant sword aura that was 1,000 feet long. Once the sword aura was shot out, a long tail of light immediately appeared in the sky, creating countless space cracks. It flashed across 100 miles, passing over 100 Golden Crow Guard battleships like a dream. Before the cultivators could react, a loud noise was heard. More than a dozen spaceships were slashed in half without any resistance, as if wax had been cut by a hot knife. The terrifying heaven-annihilating sword aura was like mercury flowing on the ground and the heavenly river hanging upside down, filling the entire sky. Colorful fireballs exploded almost immediately after the ship cracked open, crushing thousands of Golden Crow cultivators on the ship, including many nascent soul heavenly lords and 2 divine generals. At that moment, everyone screamed as if they had seen a devil. Their hearts were cold. The sword aura rolled in the sky and the chilling sword chi covered 1,000 miles. There were claps of thunder, but snow was falling and the ground was frozen. The sun and the moon were upside down and the world was in chaos. Countless cultivators from the upper world were dumbfounded. The power of that slash was too explosive. It destroyed 100 miles of space and slashed 100 spaceships. Its power had completely surpassed that of a Dao artifact and reached an unprecedented level. Jiang Tian only needed a few slashes to destroy all the starships of the Gold Crow Guards, the White Python Guards, and the Dark Crow Guards, leaving no survivors. Everyone realized that Jiang Tian's power had greatly increased after taking out that sword. He was almost as powerful as a soul formation cultivator. That slash was too powerful. It was as if Pangu had swung a giant axe and the gods of creation had split the chaos. It seemed to be able to split the stars and the moon. What kind of sword is that? Why is it so powerful? Is it a Dao artifact? No, it's even more powerful than a Dao artifact. Jing Shimin, Shi Zhenxiang and the other sect masters of the heavenly sects were terrified. They had never seen such a powerful Dharma artifact. They hadn't even seen one in the ruins of deity, not to mention Hailan. Jiang Tian didn't waste any time. He turned into a ray of light and rushed toward Xinchang. He went straight through the army and slashed with the heaven-annihilating sword again and again. Boom. Almost in a blink, 3 more armies were destroyed by the heaven-annihilating sword. At the same time, the 10-foot wheel behind Jiang Tian was spinning extremely fast. In the end, the 9 golden cores almost merged into one and turned into a chaotic golden core. That was a secret art called the 9 Changes Reincarnation Nirvana Wheel. Only those who had 9 different Dharma laws and 9 different golden cores could perform it. The 9 Dharma laws cycled endlessly, forming endless killing intent and destruction. It could temporarily unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator, shake the sun and the moon, and make the world tremble. Then, as the sword was swung down, the space within a radius of hundreds of miles was shaken. Thunders rumbled, ice and snow fluttered, and the sword light surged like waves. Ships exploded in the air like clay toys being smashed down by a 10,000-ton hammer, turning into fireworks and collapsing into a picture. The wheel spun like a wheel of light. The chariot of the sun god flashed across the sky like a cutting machine, cutting the ships into pieces. It was indestructible and unstoppable. Countless cultivators from the upper worlds didn't even have time to scream. Golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators all died in an instant. Some were turned into charcoal by the thunderbolts, some were torn apart by the dimensional cracks, some were minced into a rain of flesh by the blade aura, and some were smashed into meat pies by the huge pressure. Behind Jiang Tian was a sky full of broken limbs and the wreckage of a huge battleship. 100,000 golden core cultivators and hundreds of spaceships had actually been killed by him. It was as if he was plowing through a yard and sweeping through a cave, forcefully breaking open a path. In fact, Jiang Tian's goal was to kill Xinchang. Killing them was just a matter of convenience. But the 3 guards were killed and their blood flowed like rivers. Corpses were everywhere and blood was scattered all over the sky. He can fight 3,000 miles and fight against 1,000,000 soldiers with one slash. This is his real limit. It's terrifying. Wu Shujian's heart trembled. This time, his thoughts about whether he could get Jiang Tian's heaven-annihilating sword were shaken for the first time. Jiang Tian was already extremely terrifying without the heaven-annihilating sword. No one could stop him when he used it. Chapter 1474. Fall back. Fall back. Fall back. That's terrifying. He's like an Azura god of war. He's unstoppable. Everyone was terrified. Even the sect masters of the heavenly sects were pale. The ships retreated one after another, leaving the battlefield to Xinchang and Jiang Tian. I'm afraid that not even the princes of the Ruins Emperor's Palace and the Grand Chancellor of the 100 Moon Academy are comparable to Kong Teichu. Fairy Yaoyu's face turned pale. She was so scared that her legs went soft. She couldn't even stand straight. Legend has it that there are more powerful worlds outside of the South Gate Galaxy. There are elites who can level a large world by themselves. I didn't believe it at first, but after seeing how terrifying Kong Teichu is, I have no choice but to believe it. Ghost Wolf's hands trembled. Even in the ruins of immortality, divine generals like them could be counted on one hand. They could suppress a level 2 world, but they couldn't even withstand one slash from Jiang Tian. We can only count on Captain Xinchang now. Ghost Wolf had completely lost the confidence to compete with Jiang Tian. He knew he was too weak. Kang Teichu, that's enough. This is your last struggle. You don't have a chance anymore. All of this happened too quickly. Once the Absolute Heaven Sword was used, Jiang Tian's battle prowess increased by tenfold or even hundredfold. He pushed through the iron flood of battleships like cutting vegetables. When Shen Chong realized what had happened, it was too late. He couldn't help but attack. His body flickered with golden light and was surrounded by flames. He was like a sun in the sky. His right hand grabbed at the void, and a golden longsword surrounded by flames and shining with black light appeared in his hand. The golden crow sword was 10 feet long and emitted the energy of the sun true fire. It was engraved with the laws and runes of the golden crows. It was a supreme grade true artifact. An extremely terrifying energy rose from Shen Chong's body and rose to the sky. It quickly surpassed the nascent soul level and reached the soul formation level. Countless people looked up and felt that Shen Chong, who was in the void, was like a sun in the sky. It was as if he was a giant that could break through the heavens. You talk too much. You and I only need to fight. The 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun like a sun in the sky. Jiang Tian played his sword and sang loudly. His battle intent was vigorous, and his aura was unparalleled. He was like a supreme divine general. The battle that would determine the life and death of the cultivators of the upper realm had finally begun. The two of them moved, instantly leaving space and disappearing from everyone's line of sight. Regardless of whether it was Jiang Tian or Shen Chong, both had reached the point where they could shatter the void. Jiang Tian's Dharma laws were powerful, especially the Kuan-Peng speed Dharma laws, which were tailor-made for breaking through space. Shen Chong was a half-step soul formation cultivator, and had an extremely strong body and mind. He could go against the space storm. To them, tearing apart the vacuum was as easy as eating and drinking. Clang! The Absolute Sky Sword and the Golden Crow Ancient Sword clashed together, creating a terrifying shockwave. Space was instantly torn apart by the two forces. Immediately after, an even more terrifying sound wave swept across the entire ancient demon abyss like a tsunami. All the buildings within a radius of 100 miles were reduced to dust by this attack. Countless cultivators and demonic beasts with weak cultivation bases were directly shattered by this sound. If Wu Shujian and the others hadn't retreated far enough and didn't have life-saving secret treasures, they would have been torn apart by the sound wave immediately. But even so, he still pulled Fairy Yaoyu and fled as fast as he could. Clang! Clang! The void was filled with their afterimages. The Absolute Sky Sword with a cold viciousness clashed with the Golden Crow Ancient Sword surrounded by fire and golden light. Each of their attacks created countless shockwaves in the air. The dimension within a 100-mile radius was shattered, the mountains cracked and the ground sank. After 3 slashes, the area within a 100-mile radius around the two of them had turned into a giant black hole that swallowed everything. The barrier of this world, which was also the spatial barrier, had a hole punched through it. The two of them even went into the dimension turbulence and fought in the space storm. Oh God, this isn't the power of a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. I'm afraid only soul formation grand cultivators have such destructive power. Wu Shujian's legs trembled. He was one of the elites on the God of War roll, and had dominated an era. He thought even the princes of the Ruins Emperor's palace were only slightly more powerful than him. And yet he was like an ant in front of those two. Both Jiang Tian and Shen Chong could kill him with one slash. At this moment, Wu Shujian finally realized how terrifying a true peerless genius was. Clang! When the 4 collisions broke out, Shen Chong fell from 100,000 feet in the sky. Divine blood splashed everywhere as he smashed into the ground, creating a crater that was a few miles large. The entire ancient demon abyss shook. The cultivators of the upper worlds were dumbfounded. Shen Chong was killed with one slash? That's impossible. Ghost Wolf couldn't believe it and yelled. In his eyes, Shen Chong was invincible. Even when facing a real soul formation cultivator, Shen Chong would be able to resist for a while. Even though Jiang Tian was powerful, he hadn't reached the nascent soul level after all. In terms of power, it was impossible for him to reach the soul formation level. How could he kill Xinqiang? Wu Shujian also opened his mouth wide. That was a Real Guard captain, and a noble of the Golden Crows. His ancestor was an ancient Golden Crow Grand Cultivator, who oversaw the Southgate Galaxy. Such a terrifying talent was defeated by Jiang Tian. How powerful was Jiang Tian? Ka! An earth-shattering sound came out of the crater. A beam of fire shot to the sky like a jet of sun essence, revealing Xinqiang's battered body. Blood came out of the corner of his mouth, and there were sword marks on the parts of his body that weren't covered by the armor. One of his arms was even broken. The power of Jiang Tian's heaven-severing sword was earth-shattering, and was comparable to that of a soul formation cultivator. But Xinqiang didn't get angry. He laughed and said, "Aunt, your sword is of a very high level, even surpassing a Dao artifact. You're just a nascent soul cultivator. Even if you have the power of a half-soul formation cultivator, how many times can you use it? How many more times do I need to use it? I can kill you with one slash." Jiang Tian raised his sword to his eyebrows. His eyes were as cold as ice. There was not a trace of emotion in them, and they were filled with unparalleled determination and determination. Boom! Jiang Tian's divine will spun and turned into a beam of light, flashing toward Xinqiang again. Xinqiang shouted. Around his body, rays of divine light shot into the sky like smoke signals, and his aura shook the heavens and the earth. The Golden Crow battle armor was bursting with flames that seemed to burn the heavens. It was overflowing with sunlight, and a terrifying aura was brewing. There seemed to be a burning sun inside Xinqiang's body, providing it with enormous energy. Both Wu Shujian and Ghost Wolf were far behind in front of such energy. Boom! The sky shook and the sun and the moon shook. The two of them clashed once again. Nirvana, break the sky! Jiang Tian slashed with his sword. The shadow of a giant Kuan Peng appeared behind him. With a swing of the ultimate sky sword, it turned into a Kuan Peng with its wings spread. It flew to the 9 underworlds, split the chaos and rose to heaven, breaking through the clouds. Boom! That slash was extremely magical. It struck out from an unimaginable angle, leaving no trace behind. Xinqiang could not withstand it, and the Golden Crow ancient sword was split open. The shadow of the Kuan Peng swept past his body. Crack! Xinqiang's body was split in half by the sharp sword qi. A bloodline appeared on his forehead. The bloodline extended from his head to his abdomen, and was split in the middle. Even the quasi-Dao artifact Golden Crow armor couldn't protect him. No. Xinqiang let out an unwilling roar. Then, his nascent soul shattered uncontrollably. It exploded like hundreds of nuclear weapons, illuminating the entire ancient demon abyss. It could be seen from tens of thousands of miles away. The captain of the Golden Crow Guards, one of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor's Palace, the most powerful divine general among the 99 divine generals, and a noble of the Golden Crow lineage, Xinqiang, had finally died. Chapter 1475. Captain Xinqiang is dead. Countless cultivators from the upper world screamed as if they had lost their parents. Even more people were dumbfounded and flabbergasted. They were like ducks whose throats had been pinched by an invisible hand. They made meaningless sounds but couldn't say a complete sentence. He killed Xinqiang with one slash. He's a descendant of the Golden Crows, the top of the 9 guards of the Emperor of the Ruins. Even Shi Zhenxiang and Jing Shimin, the sect masters of the second-level worlds, and Wu Shujian, the elites on the war god roll of the Ruins of Deity, gasped as if they had seen a demon. They were really scared at this point. Speaking of which, whether they were important members of the heavenly sects or elites, they were essentially residents of the second-level worlds. They were actually the descendants of the wanderers in the deity ground. No matter how strong they were still incomparable to Xinqiang, who had a powerful bloodline and controlled the flawless Dharma laws of the Southgate Galaxy. There were still a few hundred battleships and 4,000 cultivators from the upper world left. Jiang Tian was only one person, but no one dared to attack or escape. He won. Qi Jiui was dumbfounded. The battle lasted for a few hours and was full of ups and downs, but he had never thought that Jiang Tian would win in the end. After all, he was a deity from the upper world. In the eyes of his old friend, If he was too powerful, he would be invincible. Senior Taichu won. Ao Jiao raised her arms and cheered, crying tears of joy. The Dragon Gate world had been suppressed by the ruins of deity for thousands of years. They were like the lowest slaves, controlled by others. Ever since she could remember, she had been depressed, aggrieved, angry and hateful. Now the army of the ruins of deity had been severely damaged, and she finally felt elated. My lord is invincible. Ta Kong and Ming He looked at each other with deep respect, as if they were looking up to a mountain. In the past few days, their cultivation and strength had been constantly improving. However, when compared to Jiang Tian, they felt that the gap between them and him had widened even further. It was as if they would never be able to catch up. Aliens are just so. Conquering the Sea of Stars is no longer an empty dream. Bai Zhe was stubborn, but his heart was thumping. He was worried for Jiang Tian. The experts of the ruins of immortality were indeed powerful. Jiang Tian had only won by a narrow margin this time. He had even used his trump card, the Absolute Heaven Sword. He actually won. At this moment, Long Shengnan was even more in disbelief. She didn't expect that Jiang Tian would actually make a comeback. His impression of Jiang Tian was refreshed once again. Pooh. However, at this moment, Jiang Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. Holding the Absolute Heaven Sword in his hand, he staggered and landed on the ruins of the Black Rock City. My lord! Senior! Everyone exclaimed in surprise. No need to come in. Jiang Tian's face was very pale. In the eyes of the crowd, it was as if he had been severely injured. However, he Ao Jiao Bai Zhe, and the others were all shocked. The Absolute Heaven Sword was an immortal weapon. It far surpassed Dao and true treasures. Every time he used it, he would consume a lot of energy and he would even be affected to a certain extent. It was like a 100-kilogram hammer that only Hercules could lift. If an ordinary person wanted to use it, he or she would definitely be injured. If Jiang Tian had only used it slightly, it wouldn't have been a big deal. However, he had used it to the extreme and it consumed a lot of energy. At this moment, Jiang Tian's indestructible 10-foot divine disc was dimming. If one looked closely, they would even see a few small cracks. That had never happened before. Jiang Tian's golden core was extremely tough. Even when he had killed dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords on the 18 islands, he hadn't used up so much energy. However, Jiang Tian knew that this was already a lucky situation. He might not be able to use the Absolute Heaven Sword, even if he burned 100 normal golden cores. If he burned his nascent soul completely, he might be able to use it. Even a soul formation overlord would have to pay the price of severely damaging his foundation. At this point, Jiang Tian's combat power had dropped rapidly. He was probably as powerful as Ghost Wolf and not much more powerful than Wu Shujian. If you want to take this opportunity to kill me, come on. Kill me. With a crack, Jiang Tian stabbed the Absolute Heaven Sword into the ground of the city wall, then sat down cross-legged. His cold gaze swept across the many ships as he said coldly, boom. As Jiang Tian executed the Taoye's origin returning law, a huge whirlpool appeared in the sky with Jiang Tian at the center. The essence chi and spirit chi around him turned into dragons and were sucked into Jiang Tian's body. The golden core and nascent soul were the crystallization of a cultivator's power. Even if their masters died, their power would still be there. A complete golden core could still be activated, and was not inferior to a spirit treasure. A complete nascent soul was comparable to a true artifact, and had all kinds of magical abilities. Even if the golden core and nascent soul were broken, there would still be a large amount of essence chi and soul energy left. It was not inferior to a supreme-grade elixir. At this point, Jiang Tian was turning waste into treasure. He used the law of Tao Tai and the chaos creation art to absorb and refine it as if he was eating spirit pills and spirit medicines. He could even repair his wounds and improve his cultivation in almost a second. Jiang Tian's energy quickly stabilized and then started to rise. The light around him gradually became brighter, and the light of the 30-foot divine disc became brighter and more stable. It was also recovering quickly. Ghost Wolf saw this and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He wanted to kill Chun Fan. This was undoubtedly the weakest moment for Jiang Tian. If he missed this opportunity and let Jiang Tian recover, he would never be able to defeat Jiang Tian in his life. However, he was cunning and didn't attack if he only had a 50% chance of winning. So, there were many battleships and countless golden core perfected cultivators around the battlefield. Their combined strength was at least twice as strong as his. Kill. Avenge Lord Shenchong. Kill. Avenge the Captain Wu Huan. Kill him while he's weak. Many cultivators of the Golden Crow Guards apparently also saw that Jiang Tian was weak. As the quasi-divine generals yelled, the remaining cultivators of the Golden Crow Guard charged at Jiang Tian like ants with murderous intent. Who should I help? Wu Shujian hesitated in his heart, and was in a dilemma. If Jiang Tian was seriously injured and couldn't recover, he might be able to get the heaven-severing sword if he attacked. After all, Jiang Tian had almost all the half-step soul formation and top nascent soul cultivators. However, if Jiang Tian were to suddenly recover and he were to make a move, Jiang Tian would most likely be able to kill him with a single finger. Besides, even if he stayed in the middle and didn't help either side, Jiang Tian might not let him go, because Jiang Tian was going to kill him. Wu Shujian knew too much. Jiang Tian definitely had to keep his power, divine powers and Dharma laws secret, and not let the ruins of deity know. Let's take a gamble. Do you want to die? Wu Shujian stomped his foot and gritted his teeth. Don't hurt the elites of the human race. He shot into the sky and many silver fish-like flying swords stopped a nascent soul heavenly lord. However, he let the other 8 nascent soul heavenly lords and 10,000 cultivators of the Golden Crow Guards go. As he absent-mindedly blocked the cultivator, he glanced at Jiang Tian from the corner of his eyes. He believed that Jiang Tian wouldn't give up just like that. He must have other trump cards. As expected. Clang. A crisp sound of a sword came up in the sky. The heaven-severing sword shot up and turned into a beam of sword aura, splitting a dozen nascent soul heavenly lords in half. Then, the black hole behind Jiang Tian suddenly expanded and became 100 miles large. A terrifying suction force came from it. Countless Golden Crow Guards and White Python cultivators were instantly sucked into the black hole like dumplings and were instantly destroyed by the black hole. Most of them had the power of a Golden Core cultivator. The blood of the White Python, true essence, Golden Crow, blood chi and soul energy turned into streams of essence chi, and were infused into Jiang Tian's body. It's a trap! Ghost Wolf shouted, and his eyes turned red. Chapter 1476. Ghost Wolf used to be an assassin, so he was cautious and didn't send the Dark Crow Guards. The other guards and cultivators also realized what was going on. They immediately ran away, wishing that their parents had given them an extra pair of legs. But how powerful was the Tao Tai's essence returning? It was a real Dharma law that had formed a true seal. It was almost as powerful as the shards of the Grand Tao. The black hole expanded again, and covered an area of 300 miles. In the end, not only the White Python and the Golden Crow Guards, but also the Dark Crow Guards were sucked into the hole, and turned into vitality force to replenish Jiang Tian's body. In addition to the 100,000 cultivators who had already died, only a few of them were caught. The boundless magic power and blood essence were all turned into Jiang Tian's resources and food. Crack. Feeling that he was about to be devoured, Ghost Wolf, who was flying at high speed, was so scared that he knelt on the ground. He did not dare to resist at all. The last line of defense in his heart had completely collapsed. Senior Taichu, please spare my life. I'm sorry. Shi Zhenxiang, Jing Shimin and the other sect masters of the heavenly sects and nascent soul heavenly lords screamed and flew towards the teleportation array. They didn't even attack. They even wanted to beg Jiang Tian for mercy. But Jiang Tian didn't give them a chance to speak. He immediately swallowed them all. This was a shocking scene, and it was extremely tragic. The warships shattered, and the debris fell like rain, like mountains crashing on the ground. Tens of thousands of cultivators were crushed into blood and powder, even smaller than atoms, and turned into surging yuan qi, pouring into Jiang Tian's black vortex. Senior Taichu, I'm on your side. Wu Shujian was scared out of his wits. He used himself as bait and fed on the blood essence of 100,000 golden core cultivators, a few hundred nascent soul cultivators and 28 half-soul formation cultivators. He wasn't a human being, but a fiend. Their cultivation was based on nature, but what Jiang Tian did was obviously against nature. Wasn't he afraid that he would become a fiend? However, Jiang Tian had cultivated for 10,000 years in his previous life, and his mind was as firm as a rock. No demons could hurt him. How enormous was the energy essence of 100,000 golden core cultivators? Jiang Tian's fleshly body recovered at a visible speed. In the blink of an eye, the scars disappeared without a trace. His divine body was shining brightly as if it were made of divine gold. His golden core also quickly rose to the peak and shone 100 miles like the sun in the sky. But this was not the end. Prince Qiuming of the Ruins Emperor's Palace is very courageous and resolute. Today's bitter battle has already given me a wake-up call. Jiang Tian's face was calm and resolute. His eyes were as cold as iron. I have to make the other divine bodies reach perfection and transcend as soon as possible, condense the nomological true seal, and then shatter the core to form the nascent soul. Only then will I be invincible. The 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor's Palace were very powerful, but they were not the most powerful. It was said that there were many soul formation grand cultivators in the Ruins of Immortality. The Ruins Emperor himself was even more unfathomable. Jiang Tian was having a hard time with the 3 guards of the Golden Crow. If he encountered a soul formation grand cultivator, Jiang Tian would have a slim chance of winning. The sudden attack of the 3 guards of the Golden Crow also proved that the worlds that Jiang Tian had conquered weren't safe. Even if the portal was turned off, they had been in the same galaxy for tens of thousands of years, and had been infiltrating each other. Both the Ruins of Immortality and Hylon might have left some unknown teleportation arrays in those worlds. That meant that Jiang Tian could encounter cultivators from the upper worlds at any time. What was needed to form a divine Dharma law, and form a nascent soul with a divine-grade golden core, wasn't the usual spirit herbs and spirit pills, nor was it the usual energy and spirit chi. It needed divine materials and deity materials in the world, or divine blood to refine into the body. Of course, it wasn't ideal to use the energy of the warriors of the 3 guards of the Golden Crow to increase his level. But then Jiang Tian had no other choice. Refine. With a paw sound, Jiang Tian tossed out the time formation disc. Tens of thousands of threads hung down, accelerating time by 10 times, 100 times. They began to frantically refine the essence energy, blood energy, and vital energy. The Hylon world was extremely vast. It was no longer a dimensional world, but a blue planet dozens of times larger than Earth. The relationship between the Hylon world and the low-level worlds such as Ingzhou, the Dragon Gate, and the Beiming Sea was like the relationship between Earth and the Moon. The latter was a planet, and the latter was a satellite. There were countless races, humans and sects living in the Hylon world. But the 7 heavenly sects were undoubtedly the most powerful ones. They were the real giants of the Hylon world. If it weren't for the Ruins of Immortality, no one would be able to compete with them. Normally, nothing could shock those top forces. They had been superior to the rest of the world for thousands of years. But that day, they couldn't sit still anymore. The Tao-seeking sect. It was located on a 10,000-foot mountain. It was a magnificent and beautiful land. The sacred mountain was lofty and ethereal, as if one had walked into a realm of deities. Spiritual spring water flowed from the rocky cliff. Medicinal herbs grew alongside the cliff, inhaling and exhaling fragrance and sharpness. Huge auspicious beasts lay in amidst the mountains, and there were also red-crowned cranes and white wands floating in the clouds and mist. There was not only a celestial aura, but also a wondrous scene, magnificent and varied. This place was a famous sacred ground of the Hylon world. Of course, there was a lot of dragon chi around it. There were more than 10,000 streams of purple chi and deity mist, which formed a giant dragon. At this time, in the purple bamboo forest, there was an elegant house by a lake that was as bright as a mirror. It was peaceful and comfortable. The spirit chi here was more than 10 times that of the Dragon Gate Master's worlds. The purple bamboo was like jade, and there were some spirit medicines growing in the forest. They weren't very dense, and one could see a few of them. They were hundreds of years old. And there were even ancient medicines that were more than 1,000 years old. A few elders who stayed behind to watch over the sect were drinking tea and playing chess. They were like famous scholars of the Wei and Jin dynasties. They were very free and at ease, as if they were detached from worldly affairs. Our sect master Jing Shimin and a few other cultivators went to kill Kong Teichu and haven't returned for a long time. I feel so lonely. An elder tapped a chess piece and said in a muffled voice. Yet they haven't returned for dozens of days. Could something have happened? A half-step nascent soul elder seemed a bit nervous. What could have happened? In my opinion, Prince Qiuming is making a big fuss out of nothing. He's just an ant from the lower worlds. What's there to be afraid of? He even asked the 6 heavenly sects to send their elite troops. The Grand Elder sneered and said with disdain. When our sect master formed the Golden Core back then, he went through 8 thunder tribulations and formed an 8th grade Golden Core. When he entered the nascent soul level, he also went through 8 thunder tribulations the size of an arm. With such a cultivation base, wouldn't killing Jiang Taichu from an abandoned planet be as easy as killing a chicken? Our sect master alone is enough. That's right. I'm a mid-grade nascent soul cultivator, and have reached the 7th level, let alone our sect master. Killing him will be a piece of cake. While the elders were chatting, suddenly, a beam of light flew into the Grand Elder's hand. When the first elder saw this, he immediately felt as if he had been electrocuted. His entire body trembled uncontrollably, and he fell head first onto the ground. What happened? The elders were shocked. The great elder crawled to his feet and said in a trembling voice, "What's the matter?" The golden crow, the white python and the dark crow guards, 30 half-step soul formation cultivators, a few hundred nascent soul heavenly lords and 10,000 golden core cultivators were all killed in the ancient demon abyss of the Yingzhou world. The killer is Kong Teichu. Chapter 1477. The news quickly spread out from the Heaven Monarch sects and shocked the entire Sea Billow world. I heard that something big happened in the Yingzhou realm. The Golden Crow Guards, the White Python Guards, and the Dark Crow Guards went to suppress it, but they were defeated. Hundreds of nascent soul stage cultivators and almost 30 half-divine transformation stage cultivators died? It can't be. Nascent soul heavenly lords are the most powerful beings in the world. Not even one of them dies in a few decades. How could 5 of them die in one go? Who did it? Qi Jiui didn't have this ability at all. Could it be that he was an outsider? Is it from the Big Dipper? It's not the Big Dipper, but a cultivator from ancient Earth called Kong Teichu. The battle above Blackrock City was too shocking. The sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects of the Halon world had been wiped out. Most importantly, there were also the experts of the 3 guards of the ruins Emperor Palace. How could it not shock the world? This news couldn't be hidden at all. Even though the 2 worlds were separated by millions of miles in the boundless void, there were too many magic treasures and methods that could sense each other. For example, a true treasure-level Fate Soul Tablet could connect with a cultivator's divine soul. Once the Fate Soul Tablet was destroyed, one would know that something had happened. At that moment, countless sects and families turned their attention to the sky. Their instincts told them that the Yingzhou world was only the size of a washbasin. No way. Wasn't ancient Earth rumored to be a wasteland? I heard that the spirit chi there is extremely sparse, and there are no cultivation orthodoxies at all. It has already entered the age of Dharma decline, and everyone there is like an ant. If Kong Teichu can kill so many half-step semi-god realm warriors, he must be at least at the semi-god realm. But our Billow Sea world hasn't had a single divine transformation realm cultivator for tens of thousands of years. Many people were confused, not daring to believe this. It didn't matter what level Jiang Tian was at. As long as he could kill so many half-step soul formation cultivators, he would be considered a grand cultivator. As for soul formation grand cultivators, There was no such thing as a soul formation grand cultivator in the Hylon world. Even in the ruins of immortality, they were truly great figures. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and Chilan horns. They were lofty and could be counted on one's fingers. They could even directly talk to the ruins' emperor's palace. And such a big shot had actually risen from the wasteland planet. It felt like seeing a millionaire walk out of the slums. Many people's hearts were pounding. It was as if a storm was about to come. The wind and rain swayed, and the sound of the wind and the cries of the crane could be heard. The situation is not optimistic. Kong Taechu had even destroyed the 3 golden crow guards. This had only happened a few times in history. Could it be that the ruins of immortality is going to be transformed this time? Some people with discerning eyes could sense that something big was about to happen. At this moment, not only did the news spread to the Yingzhou world, but even the Dragon Gate world was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Everyone was jubilant as they celebrated this great victory as if it was a new year. Ao Feng, Lin Qin and perfected cultivator Xian Gui were all elated. This dart was personally refined by the Lord of Heaven of Absolute Beginning for me. That Lei Yongming even flaunted his dragon scale darts everywhere, bragging about how his discerning eyes had seen through the grand primordium heavenly monarch's extraordinariness. Every time he would be able to drink good wine for free, and people would think highly of him. The world had never been as joyous as it was these days. After all, this was their first direct victory against the ruins of immortality. This incident was recorded in the history books by the historians of the Dragon Gate world. It was known as the Ancient Demon Abyss's Black Rock City Great Victory. Autumn Plum Palace. It was a branch of the ruins Emperor's Palace in the Billow Sea world. The palace was majestic and stretched into a magnificent expanse. It was majestic and had the bearing of a royal family. Is the news accurate? Sitting on the dragon throne, he wore a bright yellow robe and a 7-beaded crown. His expression was cold. Beside him, many palace maids were at least at the golden core cultivation level. At this moment, they were so frightened that they knelt on the ground. Their faces were pale, and they were trembling. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. The leader of the Raven Guards, Ghost Wolf, used a cosmic message creation Dharma treasure to send the news personally. That Kong Taechu is indeed powerful. He killed more than 20 half-step soul formation cultivators in one go as if he was killing chickens. He used a sneak attack to severely injure the leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shen Chong, and held back many experts before killing them. After Shen Chong recovered from his injuries, he fought Kong Taechu again, but he was still killed in a few moves. According to Ghost Wolf, the sword in his hand is very impressive. It has surpassed a Dao treasure. It might be a legendary immortal treasure. The Autumn Plum Palace's intelligence department's division head bowed and answered. He's less than 100 years old, and already has the strength of a half-step soul formation cultivator. A legendary immortal treasure. Prince Qiuming frowned. Even he was a bit jealous. He was born in the royal family of the Ruins Emperor, and cultivated a complete set of laws and arts. He had been taught by the best masters since he was young, and had taken countless spirit pills and spirit medicines. In the end, he had only reached the golden core level when he was 90 years old. Now that he was more than 300 years old, he was only a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator. However, Kong Taechu came from a remote place, and was less than 100 years old, but he was already powerful enough to defeat a top nascent soul cultivator, and a half-step soul formation cultivator. Immortal treasure. It was a legendary existence. It was said that this dimension couldn't even be created. It was a treasure that fell from the deity realm. However, the existence of the deity realm had never been proven. Not to mention immortal treasures. There were only some vague legends about the deity realm and immortal treasures. For tens of thousands of years, none of the billions of people in the South Gate system had seen them with their own eyes. Your Highness, the 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world have sent dozens of urgent messages. They said that Kong Taechu might fly to the sky and attack the Hylon world. The 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world might not be able to resist Kong Taechu's attack. We need reinforcements from the Ruins Emperor's Palace, or the world will be unstable. The division head said. Well, Prince Qiuming got up and walked around slowly. He felt troubled. It was easy for him to deal with normal heavenly lords, but it would be difficult for him to suppress or kill a soul formation cultivator. More importantly, that kid had an immortal artifact Dharma treasure. That was too terrifying. Prepare the portal. I'll return to the ruins of deity immediately and report to Sword God. Prince Qiuming got up and hurried deep into the Autumn Plum Palace. Half a day later, the ruins Emperor's Palace in the continent of the ruins of deity shook. A sharp sword aura pierced through the sky and shot into the clouds. Even the sky shook violently and was almost pierced through. Xinchang, Ghost Wolf, Wu Huan, you have disappointed me. You can't even kill an ant from a declining planet, and lost 100,000 cultivators. Sword God of the Ruins Emperor's Palace said coldly. Every word was like a peerless heavenly sword being unsheathed. Pass down my order. Xinchang and the other two will be stripped of all their titles. Their bodies and tablets won't be allowed to enter the Hall of Valiance. Their direct descendants will also be commoners, and will never be recruited. At that moment, in the Ruins Emperor's Palace, many Grotto Heaven owners, important members of the Nine Guards, nobles, and even princes and emperors were silent as they looked at the furious Sword God of the Ruins Emperor's Palace. They did not even dare breathe too loudly. Your Excellency, Sword God, you're being too harsh. Suddenly, a warm and magnanimous voice sounded. A beam that tore through the world emitted a loud boom as it streaked across the Ruins Emperor's Palace like a supersonic fighter jet. The beam suddenly descended, revealing an old man in a loose robe. He had simple features and a head full of horns. Teacher. Teacher has come out of seclusion. Greetings, teacher. Everyone revealed respectful looks when they saw the elder. They kowtowed to the ground. Even Qiuming and the other princes and royalty bowed as a disciple. Even Sword God wore a stern expression. The elder was known as Teacher. He was a sage that appeared once in 5,000 years, the founder of the 100 Moon Academy. Back when the ruins of deity was occupied by the Ruins Emperor, he and many predecessors had established the Ruins Emperor's Palace, the 100 Moon Academy, Sky Palace, and many other organizations. There was a saying in the ruins of deity, if the heavens did not give birth to Teacher, the ruins of deity would be like a long night. Chapter 1478. Teacher knew the most profound history and greatest secret of the galaxy. He was like an encyclopedia. There were even rumors that he had reached soul formation before the Ruins Emperor. Back in the Southgate One-Star world, before they attacked the immortal ground, the Ruins Emperor was only his student. He was even considered the Ruins Emperor's spiritual mentor. How am I harsh and ungrateful? Teacher, please enlighten me. Sword God of Ruins Emperor's Palace bowed slightly in a humble manner. However, deep in his eyes, there was a hint of jealousy and indignation. Xinchang, Joyless, and Ghost Wolf have already done their best. They never cowered in battle. It can be said that they died in battle for the Ruins Emperor's Palace. Won't you disappoint the loyal ones by dealing with them in such a manner? Teacher bowed politely with his hands clasped. Teacher, you are speaking up for Chancellor Deadwood, right? Sword God of Ruins Emperor's Palace said with a smile. Previously, Chancellor Deadwood had been ordered to be dealt with by Sword God of Ruins Emperor's Palace. His lineage was removed from the Academy's sequence and sent back to their hometowns, exiled to the Western Desert world. And at the end of the day, Chancellor Deadwood was a member of the Academy, a disciple of Teacher. Naturally, Teacher had to speak up for him. Chancellor Deadwood is different from Xinchang and Company. Xinchang and Company were authorized to take part in the military operation. They sacrificed themselves for the Ruins Emperor and the Ruins of Immortality. Teacher said patiently. But to be honest, the way you dealt with Chancellor Deadwood is not very appropriate. It's normal for cultivators to perish when they encounter experts. What's wrong with that? Besides, Deadwood's death has already caused his family great pain. We should be killing the culprit, Kang Taechu. We should not have any internal strife. Furthermore, you have no right to deal with the people of the Academy. All right. Teacher, what you say makes sense, but I have my reasons as well. You say that I can't deal with his descendants, So I'll use my supreme sword Dao to tell you that I have the right to do so. Sword God stood alone, aloof and aloof. Even the sect masters of the 6 grotto heavens did not dare stand beside him. When he heard that, his expression changed. Finally, he gritted his teeth and released infinite sword chi, approaching teacher. He actually wanted to challenge the headmaster. Everyone was shocked. Sword God, no. You and Mr. Teacher are trusted subordinates of our ruins emperor. If you were to fight and something were to happen to you, wouldn't it only bring pain to those close to you and delight the enemy? Many sect masters, princes, princesses, and nobles were so scared that their faces turned pale. They hurriedly tried to persuade him. Prince Qiuming even knelt down and cried with tears in his eyes. Your Excellency, Sword God, this disciple has failed in leading the troops to suppress the bandits. Please calm down. If you're not satisfied, then punish me. Everyone knew that Sword God and Teacher held supreme positions in the ruins of immortality. Apart from the ruins emperor, no one could subdue them. Even the masters of the 6 grotto heavens paled in comparison. Not only did they represent themselves, but each of them also had a few great powers following behind them. Once a battle broke out, it would be a civil war. The people would be plunged into misery and suffering, and the flames of war would burn continuously. You think I'm afraid of you? The headmaster chuckled. His aura suddenly changed, as if he was a peerless hero looking down on the world. Rumble. Dark clouds covered the surrounding 10,000 miles, and thunder rumbled in the void. In the boundlessly vast world of the ruins of immortality, billions of creatures could clearly sense his peerless majesty, and they all seemed to tremble. His divine might was astounding. A soul formation expert resonated with the great Tao of heaven and earth of this land. When a soul formation expert was enraged, the world would immediately sense it. Your Excellency, Sword God, please listen to me. At that moment, the river of stars trembled as beams of starlight tore through the clouds, stirring away the gray clouds and lightning. Above the imperial capital, in a heavenly palace that resembled an immortal's palace, a figure traversed 10,000 miles of the void and instantly flew over. Sky Palace's Palace Lord, Sky River Star Lord. Greetings, Star Lord. Everyone bowed in a humble and respectful manner. Many people were shocked. Sky Palace's Palace Lord, White Jade Academy's founder, teacher, and the #1 expert of the Ruins Emperor's Palace, Sword God, had all come personally because of Kong Teichu. Such a thing was extremely rare in the history of the ruins of immortality. His Majesty, the Ruins Emperor, had already stopped his blood and stopped his lifespan for thousands of years. He would come out of seclusion once every 1,000 years. That day was known as the Day of Seclusion. On the Day of Seclusion, the entire ruins of immortality celebrated. With the beating of gongs and drums, thousands of nobles, royal descendants, and Grotto Heaven's sect masters came to the Ruins Emperor's palace to pay respects. However, Sky River Star Lord, Teacher, and Sword God had important positions, so not all of them were present. Dao brother. Sword God cupped his fists and bowed deeply. His expression softened slightly. We are all working for the Ruins Emperor. Why should we cause a ruckus just because of some minor figures who have different opinions on how to deal with them? Wouldn't it be a joke to outsiders? Sky River Star Lord smiled warmly. Behind him was Prince Xiahe. Prince Xiahe was handsome, and had an extraordinary bearing. His body shimmered with starlight, and his eyes were as resplendent as the stars. Prince Xiahe walked in front of Prince Qiuyang, his face filled with admiration. He bowed and said, Brother, you have racked your brains to suppress the bandits. You have worked hard. Sai, I'm ashamed. Prince Qiuyang felt ashamed as he said, Don't worry. Once Senior Sky River is here, they won't be able to fight, Prince Xiahe said with a smile. Don't worry. Indeed. With Sky River Star Lord mediating, Sword God immediately dispersed his billowing sword chi and said respectfully, I'll listen to you, Dao brother. I won't investigate how to deal with Chancellor Deadwood's descendants. However, Golden Crow and the other 2 guards are my men. I'm very displeased with their actions, so I naturally have to punish them. Seeing the Heavenly River Star Sovereign come out to mediate and easily resolve the crisis, everyone looked at each other in shock. Do you know? I heard that Lord Sword God comes from a powerful Tao orthodoxy outside the Southgate Galaxy. Back then, he fought with the sword son of that orthodoxy for the position of successor. He eventually lost and had no choice but to flee to our Southgate twin stars. The Skylight Grotto Heavens sect master said with a voice transmission. That can't be. Sword God is the strongest expert in our Ruins Emperor's palace. Apart from His Majesty the Ruins Emperor, Teacher, and Heavenly River Star Lord, he is the strongest expert in our Ruins Emperor's palace. Apart from Master and Teacher, even the sect masters of the 6 Grotto Heavens and Patriarch Ling, the leader of the 8 aristocratic families, claim that they are not Sword God's match. The surrounding sect masters and elders clicked their tongues. Master, Sky River Star Lord and Sword God were the few known peerless soul formation cultivators in the deity ruins. Some of the sect masters of the 6 Grotto Heavens and the leaders of the 8 aristocratic families had already reached the soul formation level, but they all thought that they were no match for Sword God of the Ruins Emperor's palace. However, such a powerful Sword God was only a loser in a battle between orthodoxies. How could everyone not be shocked? I heard that from an old friend of mine in the Tianji Grotto Heaven. It said that the ancient orthodoxy is extremely powerful and spans across several galaxies. It's a top force in the entire banking system, and there might be more than one soul formation grand cultivator. Sword Sun is even listed on the galaxy roll. He has become a god, and is famous across the galaxy. The sect master of the Skylight Grotto Heaven continued to gossip. The galaxy roll. Everyone was silent when they heard this, and their faces were incomparably stern. They had heard that the roll was published by the Beidou planet region. Only those who had reached the soul formation level and swept across the galaxy were qualified to be listed on the roll. Up until then, no one in the history of the Southgate Galaxy had ever been listed. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.